Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, getting into week 14 in the NFL now, everybody, getting into the back end of the year, really. The game for the Eagles this week is not till next Monday night, so we do have a little bit extra time here, an extra day here to prepare for week number 14, Eagles versus Chargers in L.A. Johnny Mac, how you doing this Tuesday morning, brother?
Doing well. Yeah, it's been a weird schedule, weird season. Another mini bye. No back-to-back home games. It's a weird schedule.
It is a weird schedule. Do you think that's impacted the team at all?
No, I don't know. I'm not going to make that as an excuse, but they do. I bet this has been going on for years. They play a lot, and it just, as the NFL has increased the schedule and play on more days because the Eagles are a high-profile team. They're playing on a lot of strange schedules on the week, and they've generally handled it pretty well. This year, certainly the short weeks, they have not handled it well. Losing to the Giants, which was the worst loss of the season, and then losing to Chicago, which is, a good team, but certainly an uncharacteristic performance. They certainly haven't handled those short weeks well this season.
No, they have not. We go, as you mentioned, the Giants game, and obviously this week coming in. Now they have a little bit of an extended period before the Chargers. Chargers are an interesting team. They're like destroyed on the offensive line, but they're 8-4 as well. So if you go by records and you keep telling me how great the Eagles are because their record is 8-4, well, then apply that to the Chargers. You got two good teams in the matchup next Monday night. John, let's get into what happened yesterday in Eagle Land. Nick Sirianni spoke. Eagle fans are hurling eggs at Kevin Patullo's house. For the life of me, I don't know why or who the type of people are who would do that crap. But there is some updates in Eagle Land, and we'll get into them. Let's start with Nick Sirianni's presser. Johnny Mac, sounded like Nick is maybe open to some change, John. I don't know if you took it that way, but there was a quote that was put out there by John Clark from Nick. Well, it wasn't by John Clark. John just shared it up to social media. Basically looking at everything. And he even mentioned the word scheme. I think he said we're evaluating everything. Well, look,
that was my question. You can't give John Clark credit for that.
It was your question. I meant John shared the quote. Yeah. But what'd you make of what Nick had to say yesterday about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wrote about that's where you're not going to get anything from Nick overtly at this stage. He's gotten too protective of everything and everyone, but and he's a big competitive advantage guy we've talked about to a fault almost, but sometimes he says something without saying it, and there was an example of that. So, I think everybody wants this simple explanation, the simple answer, which is fire Kevin Patullo or demote Kevin Patullo. And what he said there about scheme, we will think about some different things that we want to do all over the place, scheme everything. I think he's talking about those little tweaks, which they've already done. They did it after the first. We talked about the struggles on short weeks. Well, they came out and they went under center more to try to get the running game going. And ironically, it was the passing game that got going because of it. But so they have done these little tweaks before, and I think you'll see some tweaks coming out, but that's sort of what he's talking about. And I don't know how much you can fix this thing at this point, other than players playing better, to be honest. Simple as that.
Do you think there'll be any change to the risk-averse philosophy of, protect the football at all costs? Will they try and open it up a little bit? I mean, there was a world when the Eagles didn't play offense this way. Now, I know Kevin Patullo wasn't the coordinator then, and Nick Sirianni was still the head coach, but it hasn't always been this risk-averse approach, in the Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni era. Is there a chance that they go back to that, John? And maybe, as you have pointed out last year, you thought it was unfair the way they kind of bottled up the offense. It worked, obviously, but still might be unfair, and especially as you look at it now. Do you think they might make that change?
I don't, because if you look at this little mini 2-game losing streak, they've turned the football over.
Right.
And that's arguably why they lost both games. So, I mean, it's sort of, if you look at it from that standpoint,
Yeah,
now,
they might double down. we got to ball and we'll win.
it is, and you had the, it was more unconventional in Dallas where you had the Saquon fumble, guy coming back into the play. Sometimes that's going to happen. You had the poor Xavier Gibson punt, but and ironically the defense held up anyway. But and then Jalen with a bad interception, Jalen with a bad fumble. That was specifically on Jalen against Chicago, and he took accountability for that. But yeah, I mean, this ain't the game coming off where you're saying, "Oh, we need to have him turn it over 4 times like he's Max Brosmer." I think it would go in the opposite direction, if anything.
Well, and Moore feels to me like the opposite, that the offense just can't get going. They're top of the league in 3 and outs. They have another 4 of them. They don't move the ball very much. The offense was on the field for 20 minutes of gameplay in that last game. That to me is more what it's about. But I understand your point about the turnovers. It's not going to change.
Yeah, well, I think that is, the effectiveness. Players got to play better. Simple as that. Offensive line, quarterback, specifically, I would say on offense. And defense, I think it's a little bit, a little bit more unconcerning for the defense because you know what you have in Vic Fangio. And I really do think that's a game that is uncharacteristic. They played against the Bears. And sometimes you just have bad games, and I think they'll bounce back to a certain degree at least. But offensively, excuse me, guys got to play better. Penalties, Jordan Mailata was talking about that on his show. I mean, the penalties have been ridiculous. Not only putting them behind the sticks, and I'm not talking about holding or talking about some of these subjective calls. I'm talking about the pre-snap stuff, not lining up correctly, turning, 1st and 10s to 2nd and 1st and 15s, getting behind the sticks. That kind of stuff's got to be cleaned up. I mean, it's week 14. That's got to be cleaned up. And you have a bunch of veteran players. You can blame the coaching staff if you want, and I know everybody will go down that route, but these are veteran players. These aren't rookies. I mean, they know what they're doing when it comes to lining up at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So that to me is a focus issue and things like that. So they have to fix that kind of stuff. And then I would say and I would add Saquon in that conversation, obviously, as well. Saquon, Jalen, offensive line, they just have to play better. Simple. If you want simple, there's your simple. They just got to play better. There's guys, and, I will add one defensive player on there, and that's Jalen Carter. Coming into the season, including me, we were talking about, wow, this guy might turn in defensive player of the year, type conversation. Not even close. Not even close. He hasn't even been one of the best defensive tackles in this league. Forget about defensive players.
Yeah.
So,
that's going to be an interesting conversation when his contract comes up. I think they should obviously pay him. He's a great player, but I don't know if he's in that ballpark of what we thought he would be.
No, not even close. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still a good player. You're right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but, we were expecting superstardom. He's not a superstar at all. And he's got to start playing up to his potential as well.
John, if the coach is doing, I get what you're saying, that players have to play better, and I agree with that. But you look at a team, and I'll just use the example of the team who played last night. 11-2, the New England Patriots are. Now, I know they haven't beaten a bunch of world beaters. They haven't had a great schedule, but are players just playing better in New England? Did they just get better players? I mean, that to me looks like a good example of a great coaching performance. Now, I'm not saying it's all the coaching. The players deserve a lot of credit. But I think that's where people sometimes hear what you say about the coaching and they're like, I don't get how you take it all off the coaching, because you see good performances. You see what Ben Johnson's done with the Bears. You see what Vrabel's done with the Patriots. Are the Eagles coaches giving the advantage to the Eagles players like some of these other coaches around the league are?
I don't want to get into the scheme part of it, but from the standpoint, sometimes, and Mike Vrabel's a good coach, and you saw sort of the life cycle. I talk about the life cycles of teams that exist. I mean, that was a significant contender in Tennessee for a long period of time until it wasn't. And you have these life cycles, and Mike was unfortunately unable to get over the hump, and it went in a negative direction. And then he's got a new situation where he's the new voice, and they have a young quarterback who's taken a big step forward and Josh McDaniel deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of juice, and they also have the easier schedule because of how poor they were last year. Very similar to Chicago in the NFC, and even Denver, also in the AFC. All second-year quarterbacks, all not great teams. All of a sudden, surprising some people maybe, and then all of a sudden the NFL gets, you get some confidence, and then the snowball starts rolling down the hill. But I think what it tells you more than anything else is how even these teams are.
Yeah, you've always said that too.
Yeah.
The bottom after the top 5 or 8 players.
Very, very similar, very similar. So when your stars don't play like stars, you have. And by the way, the Eagles are 8-4, because it tells you that they do have stars. And I got the betting markets yesterday. They're second to reach the Super Bowl still, because nobody believes in anybody else.
Yeah, it's true.
And the Rams are number 1 coming off a loss, which tells you a lot as well. But I think that's what you see. And you see it in the opposite direction when you see 14-win teams fall off the cliff. You make a couple bad personnel decisions, especially a quarterback, and you're one of the worst teams in football. In less than 12 months, you go from one of the best to one of the worst. And every year in this league for 2-3 decades, there is a worst to first team. And a lot of that has to do with schedule. I talked about with San Francisco coming off the bad year with a bunch of injuries. They were going to have a good year. And I don't think they're that good, but that's what it, and we saw it with Washington last year, and they fall down to earth this year. Happens all the time in this league. It's very parity driven, excuse me. And in a lot of ways, that talks about this run of the Eagles and how impressive it is. Because when people in Philadelphia, and I talked about this, and they act like, well, you'll just put Fred Johnson in. No. That's amazing when you persevere.
Yeah, right.
Nothing against Big Fred. I love the guy, but no. He's not a starting NFL tackle.
Yeah. It's not Tyler Steen you lost here. This is Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer, potential Hall of Famer.
And that's sort of the kind of thing and then when you start, like you see it with Sidney Brown now, and all of a sudden he's on the field. Yeah. It can go
after that DeAndre Swift juke.
DeAndre. And, yeah, I mean, this league is very, very close. And the assumption that the Eagles, say from 20 to 53 are so much better than everybody else. That is not the case.
Well, we'll see how it shakes out. John, a couple other comments that I want to get to from Nick Sirianni. He talked about play calling and obviously said, after a weekend of evaluation, where the play caller will remain the same. Now, John, I already know how you feel about this, and so I'm not going to go down that road, but I do want to approach it a little bit of it from a different angle. I was a goalie, John, when I played hockey, and you give up 5 goals in the first period. Sometimes you need a spark. Now, I know that's not the perfect comp, but this offense has just been pretty objectively bad all year. Should they look to do something like Dan Campbell? I'm not even saying it's all Kevin Petula, but would it benefit this team to maybe let Scott Leffler, Jason Michael call a couple plays, a couple games, or wouldn't it benefit them to try and get this thing going to some extent? It feels like they're just beating the square peg into the round hole over and over and over and over again. And it's just not working, this offense this year. It's been pretty objectively bad outside of a few instances this year, a half of football here, a half of football here, the Vikings game here, but 12 games, largely it's been a pretty incompetent offense. Do you think the team could benefit from a change in play caller despite Nick saying he will not do it?
I'm going to go back to 2020 to give you an example of why. I hear your spark conversation, and I think that's a real thing. And you point out, and I say it all the time, and take it back to football. Quarterbacks, sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't, like
Right.
starting pitchers. If you give up 5 goals in the first period, you should probably bench the guy,
Yeah.
And try something else. You're still going to lose the game. So I get that part of it. In 2020, which went off the rails, that was Doug's last season. And mainly because of, again, personnel, offensive line issues, crippling injuries. But certainly, there were other reasons as well. But mainly that was the biggest thing.
Yeah, they had a lot of injuries in 2020.
At times, because Doug felt, he'd been doing it a long time and, needed a spark. In fact, he used that word, needed a spark. Handed off some play calling. I forget, it was third down. It was red zone. Something. I think it was red zone with Rich Scangarella, who was a senior offensive assistant, and Press Taylor also got to call some stuff, maybe 2-minute stuff. And I'll double check in my notes, but so he changed part of the play calling, not all of it, but part of it. Nobody knew. Nobody saw a difference. If he didn't want to tell us, we'd never know to this day.
Right.
Nobody knew.
So are you saying it could happen and we wouldn't know, or are you saying?
Well, it both could happen and we wouldn't know, and that tells you how impactful that all these people who think it's such a big deal, you can't even tell when they changed the play call. I'm not saying you. I'm saying me. I'm saying everybody. Couldn't even tell. Other than, if you're paying attention to the sideline, and obviously somebody has clearly got the play sheet in front of them and the microphone and Doug, but that wasn't the case with Doug. Andy's done it as well, and they both have it. So unless it's overt like that, you don't even know. My point is, by the plays, even though it's a different person, nobody knew. Nobody knew. And they didn't know, and they haven't known in Kansas City, when sometimes Andy hands it off and sometimes he doesn't, and sometimes he takes it back. Sometimes he's a little bit more overt and you can tell, but nobody knows. That's my point. This impact of, I agree with your spark conversation, and maybe they need a spark, and maybe if they go to Parks Fraser, Scott Leffler, or Jason Michael, that to me reeks of desperation. That's why I wouldn't do it. But they'd be calling the same plays off the same chart, and you wouldn't even know. Again, unless it's overt. and they announce it, or
Yeah. Which they wouldn't do. Zach Berman pointed that out yesterday on X, that Nick isn't going to just come out and say, if any changes do happen.
well, everybody goes back to Sean Desai because they actually made him go out there and have a press conference like he was the defensive coordinator still, and he wasn't. And originally, they took third down play calling and went away from a defensive play call, and nobody knew. Why would they? I mean, I don't know if I explained that correctly. Is it coming across?
No, it didn't. I understand what you're saying. I still think they should do something because it's not working right now. I mean,
Well, that's fine. But I'm telling you, it's not going to be that big drastic difference that people want or people think they're going to get, or people, if they did it, and they're not going to do it this time, but it wouldn't be this drastic change. Like, nobody's bringing in new concepts in week 14 and new schemes. You're going to be running the same shit, just with somebody else being the final say. It's too late. That meaningful change that people want, that's off-season stuff.
Yeah,
it's not week 14 stuff.
Yeah, it really does. It feels like you're right about that part of it. You're not just going to, I think there is a line of thinking of people, and I think they're wrong, but it is what it is. It's out there. Now you replace Patullo in week 14, John, and the Eagles' offense is back, baby. They're humming again. Yeah, you're right about that. I don't think that's the case. All right, John. Next question for you on Nick. I don't want to take a shot at the beat guys. That's not my intent. That's not my purpose here. I don't get why nobody asked him about the quarterback's play. Nobody says to Nick, Jalen seems to be in a slump.
Yeah, well,
like that. It's just, are they afraid to do it? Is it because Nick's going to give you the same bullshit answer? Why is that? I don't know. I feel like if I was up there, and maybe I'm just speaking, out of line because it's not what I do, and I have respect for what you guys do, but I feel like I would ask that question.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was going to ask that question, and not to say, but I was second. Again, it's Zoom on Mondays, so it's not live. So you're getting one question, and if he doesn't answer it, maybe you get a follow up. Elliot was first, and he asked some. I don't know. Well, I didn't. My presumption would he ask about the evaluations or Patullo, and then I could go to Jalen. Unfortunately, you don't know what, but we don't have meetings, as I always say. So I was, I had to ask. I felt I had to ask the question about the evaluation and Patullo more. And then it went. And it was very Patullo heavy driven press conference. And then everybody else after me went in different directions, but most of it was Patullo related. And it's a very short time. You saw how many questions were asked, not many. So, it would have been asked if it were live. Somebody would have gotten to it. I would have gotten to it as a second question, at least. I'm confident it would have been asked. So, there's some limitations on Zoom, and it was a heavy, because you're coming off the mini bye. Said they were going to evaluate everything. You got to get them on the record about Patullo. It was very driven to that. And then there was a couple weird questions, like the Calcaterra question, which is, I mean, okay, he can't block, and the Eagles keep making him block, so it's legitimate criticism. But probably that's, so, and again, you don't know what people are working on. So, they're probably working on, hey, their tight ends can't block. They're probably working on that story. So they need a quote for that story. There's a lot of things that go into it. And you have very limited time. Even with the head coach, we get him more than anybody else, but you still have limited time and limited questions. And everybody's working on something different. And everybody needs a different answer to work and finish their stuff. So it got lost in the weeds. But I will say the quarterback, the there will be plenty of questions about the quarterback, and there were, but most of the questions, because of the stories that came out, were about the run game. So there were a couple questions about the quarterback run game. But to your point, yeah, he should have been asked about Jalen's not playing well. And he will be. And Jalen will be asked on Thursday. So it's coming.
Yeah. Not that they'll give you a great answer like they ever.
No. Well, that's true too.
Yeah. But all right, it is what it is. Johnny Mac, let's get into some other conversation today. Real quick, a little update for everybody. Hard Knocks comes out tonight. All right, I know a lot of people are excited for that one because they feel like they're going to get some look at the inside, what's going on here. I don't think you're going to get that.
That excitement will dim quickly.
Yeah, the Eagles PR staff will not allow much to that screen. But I will tune in for everybody and keep you guys posted on what's there. I don't know if John will watch, but I will watch. So good stuff there. John, the Kevin Petula story, I just got to get you to comment on it. The people hurling eggs at his house and shit. The Morristown Police Department put out a statement about that. Come on, people. Let's be better than that.
Come on. See, what losers. Come on.
That's a perfect word.
Now, you hope, I hope, I guess, hope is not a strategy, but I hope that is a very small minority. I hope there isn't a bunch of people that think it's okay to go to somebody's house and egg it. And I know everybody's going to say, well, we egg people. And well, you're a loser. Well, I don't know what else to say. You're a loser. No matter how many
property. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thought process. Mindset.
It is. And all because you don't like a guy you don't know. You have no idea what's going on. You have no impact on. You think you know, but you don't know. From the standpoint of we talk about every day on the show, play calling versus you have no idea what the play call is or what it's designed to do, or how many times have I said this? And nobody can even accept that. They're judging play results. They don't want to blame the players. It's not, Dan Campbell went through some shit in Detroit, so I'm not picking on Philadelphia. It happens all over. There's losers in every fan base.
Yeah.
But these people are losers and should be ostracized from the fan base, or at least from the good fans. You don't do that shit. People have families, people have homes.
Well, that's where I come down. I mean, you're going to go to a man's house when his kids are home and his wife is home. I don't feel bad for you with whatever happens next.
No,
I
hope. By the way, and I was talking to the Morristown police. They're investigating. I hope they continue. I hope they find them. And there's only so much you can do, but I hope they make it public and say this is the idiot that did this. Idiots. And I hope they find them, and I hope they're, when they think about their stupid actions. I don't know what else to say, but it's so immature. Grow up.
Yeah, I don't know how old or young they were. Some people thought they were young. I think they used like an AI voice, is what it sounded like on the video that was posted. I don't know. A bunch of losers. I think that's the perfect word for them, John. I'll go there. All right, John, we got a couple super chats we'll get to, and then we'll dive into some of the topics here. We do have Chris Franklin coming up in hour number 2. So we'll talk to Chris, get his takeaways on this Eagles team. And we will also gauge some super chats from the great people as well on where everybody else is feeling on this team. They are 8-4. They won 4, they lose 2. They win 4, they lose 2. Will they win the next 4? Who knows? Let's see what they can do. And how is everybody feeling about the team, I think is a question I'm interested in here. Real Zeal. What's up, Zeal? I think you sent this twice. I'm not sure if you meant to do that, but we do appreciate it. He says, J-Mac, Jalen Hurts is like Dirty Dom Mysterio. He's limited in the ring, but he knows how to draw heat. If he has a bad match, is it on him or the booker for asking him to do something he can't?
I like the comp because I like wrestling, but I don't think Dom is as bad as a lot of people project. But he's getting better, but he does know how to handle the crowd. I don't know if Jalen knows how to handle the crowd because, I think the aloofness is a little bit too much. In fact, I think if he would handle the crowd better, it'd be a better situation. And by the crowd in this instance, I don't mean the fans or the media. I mean the locker room. Yeah, I don't like the comp, but look, I don't think it's possible for this team to be a high volume. I've said it many times, a high volume passing offense with this quarterback. So I think, and again, consistently, not that he can't do it for a game. He's already done it for a game, consistently.
I think the game that you just referenced, though, I think that's what breaks people in terms of like they see it for a game, you know what I mean? And then there's like,
Yeah.
why don't we do this all the time, you know?
Well, you see it because a lot of times it doesn't work, and you have the 130 passing yard games, and you have the missed throws, and then you get in an environment like, unfortunately, there's been some bad weather luck for these games, Detroit, Chicago, and it's looked even uglier. But I think there's a way to get a better balance. I think they're too, risk averse. I've said that as well. So I think there's a better balance. But look, I think the problem with this team, because it's not Madden, I think people think it's as simple as these guys are out there with a joystick and go put the players to succeed. And it's the exact opposite. It's the players. And guys who are proven star players are not playing like star players this season. Saquon Barkley, Jalen Carter, offensive line, Jalen Hurts. If they played up to their reputations, this team's 8-4 anyway. They'd probably be 10-2. They're second on the betting markets to reach the Super Bowl again, to win the Super Bowl. And they'd probably be the favorite if guys were performing up to their reputations. But right now, they're not. And to blame it all on the same coaches who, for the most part, like Jeff Stoutland, all of a sudden doesn't know how to put together a running game. Like, I that's what I don't get with this criticism. Like, I don't know about you guys. Two things. And I'm not mentioning names, and I'm not mentioning. I see such a visceral emotion with some of these film people. Like, I don't know how you can take that credibly. Like, when they're so upset about a certain play or a certain thing going wrong, and they're breaking it down, and they're talking like, you hear the word we, that's a dead giveaway. Move along. Because it ain't we. But and then from the standpoint of, again, forget about the coaches you don't like. Think about the coaches you do like. Jeff Stoutland. Okay. Now I heard it multiple times this week. Ben Johnson's the king of the world. What a great inventive run game. What other than nobody's watching Jalen Carter get washed down again and again and again and again. And they go, well, why don't the Eagles do that? You got one of the best offensive line coaches in the history of football, one of the best run game coordinators who just put together the second most, the best individual season for a running back in NFL history, and one of the best rushing offenses as a whole in history. And all of a sudden he can't coach. It doesn't make sense at a base level. Vic Fangio. Well, you could put up the tape of that performance against the Chicago Bears and say Vic doesn't know what he's doing if you wanted to. Nobody has, because he's got some rope left. And he's the best defensive coordinator in football. I firmly believe that. they're not on the field, man. I mean, Vick's the best example because people still like him. And that was a shit poor performance against Chicago. Why couldn't he turn the switch? He's Vic Fangio because he's not on the field. So I get it. People want scapegoats, but there's no credibility to that. There's none. Like, why are people getting emotional watching film of an NFL game other than the emotion of
I think they're
laughter?
incredible good people to watch. But I agree with you. There's
I'm not picking on everybody.
Yeah.
You know the ones. I mean, Baldy's great.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I'm talking. I saw like 3 or 4 different people. I'm not speaking of one person.
I mean, I watched even Kurt Warner, had a good breakdown on a lot of people were ripping Jalen for the play where he threw the ball to Devontae Smith and it was off. And everyone's like, God, it was open and he should have made the throw. And Kurt Warner really broke down pretty simply what happened there. I mean, he wasn't one, you're not even looking at Goddard there because your first read worked.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on them. Don't even get
choice
me started
route.
on the
I mean, it's a choice route, so
Yeah.
the receiver can kind of pick and choose there. You got to be almost on the same page. Like that to me, a Hall of Fame quarterback, I'm like, okay, there is credence in that. I will listen.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll never hear me criticize Baldy or Kurt or somebody, and especially quarterbacks or Tom, somebody like that who've actually done it at a high level and know how to play the position and know exactly what's going on. But yeah, I hate the screenshot. This guy's wide open.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him either.
Like he's an owl, the quarterback. Sometimes it's on the other side of the field. How does he not see?
Yeah, right.
Every play has a progression. It's just, I always say, elevate the conversation. I'm like,
boy, it's ironic too, but you share screenshots of people open in a way that's a credit to Kevin Petula. They might not want to admit that, but it's a credit to Petula.
That's just a funny sort of hypocritical thing to point out. Yeah. Well, I find it so because people use that term creative like it's like an answer. There's a bunch of creative guys that probably would be shitty offensive coordinators because they're trying stuff that's they're trying a little bit too much, and it's almost become to a lot of people as the synonym for success, creative, when it's not, but execution is. But in the NFL realm, it's if anything, in any objective measure, they've been far more creative this season than last season because they've had to be. They've had to try different things because the players are not performing at the same level. Now, I'm not saying they're Ben because they're not. But if you look at it last year, some of the red zone you've never seen in this era before. These little slide passes that Goddard off the RPO, which, people say that constantly works. Or if Jalen gets it out on time or gets it out too soon or Saquon gets his head around. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than, if it continues going this way and they lose, say, in the first round of the playoffs, and they lose badly, like it's a Tampa game, and you're going to get your scapegoats, and they're going to move on, and you're going to get your pound of flesh, and but until they fire Nick or until they move on from the quarterback, whomever, insert name, it's going to look awfully familiar. awfully familiar to what it looked like under Nick, Shane, Brian, Kellen, Kevin.
The only thing I think that's fair, here is, well, there's a lot of fair conversations about it, depending on who you talk to. But it does feel like to me, John, they're trying to do the same shit that they did a year ago, and it's just not. It's not the same offensive line. It's not the same running back. Offense isn't playing the same. You're going to have to switch it up, in my opinion, to get a little bit more production out of them. I don't think it's all on them. I just think there is a degree to which that might help. Like last year, they're running these same run plays, and they worked. And now they're doing them again, and they don't work. So it's like, what, do you have to switch something up if the players aren't converting at as high of a level as they were?
Well, I mean, again, what about, again, they've switched up more than they switched up last year. They made the one giant shift.
How about the run game specifically, though?
Well, how about the under center? How about that? Is that a switch up? That was all designed to get the running game going.
Yeah, right. That is a switch up. That's fair.
Again, there's been adjustments. They haven't worked to a large degree, because the players are not performing. I know that's difficult for everybody to hear, and when they last season, it was because the players were performing. It wasn't because the coaches were performing. It's the worst offense Kellen Moore ever had. Like I always say, that is such an interesting discussion. It is bizarre to me. Literally, this guy is
the worst offense he ever had.
Passing offense. So
passing offense. Okay.
Ever had by a wide margin. No, it was a great performance by the running attack. I mean, he came in. That was the whole hype about Kellen Moore. Oh, he's an 11 personnel guy. He's going to motion people. He's going to scheme people open. Had nothing to do with the passing game. The passing game was atrocious for a large portion of the season. And the running game was historic. And there's a long history with Kellen Moore in Dallas and with the Chargers. By far his worst passing offense. By far. And it's like everybody thinks it was great. It's freaking bizarre to me. And I don't know if this has ever been proven, but I've told this story before. There's supposedly childbirth is pretty painful for women, for anybody who's been involved with it. It seems like something as a man I would not want to go through again.
Yeah, I can agree to that. But any ladies in the chat, I don't know.
But there's supposedly some chemical in a woman's makeup that makes them forget the horrors of childbirth, or at least put it and recede it in the back of their mind, and they have more kids and yada yada yada. Some do, some don't. Up to them, whatever. You get my point.
Yes, I do.
Like that Super Bowl made everybody forget how bad that passing offense was. Again, I bring it up all the time, not to point out, because that happens in every NFL game, not to point out that they could have lost to the Rams. That's inconsequential. I'm saying if they lost to the Rams, that's all we would have been talking about in the offseason, you and me. All we would have been talking about it. How bad that passing offense was. We didn't talk about it at all, because they got past the Rams. Saquon dominated against the Washington, made it easier. They had good time throwing the ball, but not overtly. It was like 220 yards. Same thing in the Super Bowl. Defense dominates. They make some big plays in the passing game after the defense dominated. And everybody's like, oh, fixed. Was never fixed. Was never fixed.
Well, it is a little weird that the passing game, as you pointed out, was the worst of Kellen Moore's career, and then the Eagles decided to elevate the passing game coordinator from that team.
Well, he's been the passing game coordinator since 2021.
Yeah, where they've never had a great passing. Even in 22, I think they were bottom half of the league.
But what is the obvious elephant in the room here?
I get that. I agree with that. The quarterback is not a high volume passing quarterback, so he's never going to be a top passing offense.
Exactly. You can change the names all you want. And
still,
you will.
Still, that part of it doesn't make Patullo a good fit.
It's fine. You'll change the name. I mean, everybody will get their wish after the season. The name will change.
So, good. So we're gonna have another new offense. I don't even, as much as I don't like Patullo, I'm at a point where I don't even know if it makes sense to fire him. You're gonna bring in another new name, and we're gonna go through this bullshit again next year.
Yep.
New offensive coordinator. Let's see how long it takes him to mesh with Jalen Hurts. Another new offense, another new half of a playbook, more new terminology. Come on, that doesn't even sound like a good answer to me. As bad as I don't think Patullo is all that great, but I don't think it's all on Patullo. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, continuity is better than the alternative. Now there's levels to that. I mean, in hindsight, Sean Desai was not prepared for that job. But Nick has been around Kevin long enough that I feel very comfortable he's made the assertion that Kevin is not overmatched in his job performance. And certainly the players seem to like him. So I don't like that comparison. But Jeffrey's Jeffrey, and he'll have his scapegoats, and most likely it'll be Kevin. And then Nick will be on the clock, and I'll bring in somebody from outside the organization, new ideas, and you and I will be talking at OTAs, and they're trying to run motion, and they're trying to get so-and-so involved, and they're trying to do this, and they're trying to do that. And the same thing in training camp, rinse, repeat, get to the regular season, they'll scale it back.
This conversation has led me to a bigger question. Are Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts just not a great football fit? I know they've been very successful, and I'm not taking away from that football success, but we have an offensive head coach who doesn't call plays, which is fine. I mean, I get it. He's the CEO of the head coach, but it's created an environment where there's constant change, there's constant churn, there's constant turnover. Jalen would benefit, in my opinion, from a little continuity at the position. Are they not a good football fit, John, anymore? Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts?
Well, I mean, they're already a great football fit because of their success.
Yeah, well, I get that. I'm not discounting it.
I mean, and again, everybody's got a life cycle, and you're trying to expand the life cycle as long as humanly possible. At some point, it's going to end. Maybe this is the start of it. Maybe it isn't. Maybe they rebound. I think they have an easy schedule. I don't see any great teams in the NFC. I think it's more likely that they recover than the life cycle ends. But I guess it's possible the life cycle is ending because this league moves fastly. I talk about it all the time. Guys age out. Guys start playing poorly. Guys just decline. And maybe we're starting to see the beginning of that. It's possible. And then you have to go in a different direction. In the case of the Eagles, as they're set up. Look, Jeffrey, yeah. The Eagles have had so much success. One of two things happens. Either the guy gets a job, Shane, Jonathan, Kellen, or they don't reach expectations and they fire guys. The second part is the problem. Because, yes, it would be better to let somebody, because when you are a first-time coordinator or you are a first-time play caller, you need some time to grow in that position. But again, patience is not in tremendous supply in Philadelphia. It just isn't. It's either succeed or you're out. And if you do succeed, you're also out because you're going to get, and that includes Kevin, by the way. If they rebound and win the Super Bowl, he'll get head coaching interviews.
He'll be gone to some other team that's $60 million over the cap, so he's not hamstrung by this fucking offense. All right, let's go to our next super chat. Oh man, this stuff stresses me out. This damn team. Dirty D, what's up, Dirty D? 2013 Ravens fired their offensive coordinator in week 12 or 13 and went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Was that late they fired him?
Yeah, that was the Jim Caldwell
Yeah,
year.
that's right.
I love when everybody picks the outlier, like it's, there's the exception proves the rule. It doesn't make it the
They
rule.
fired Cam Cameron. That's right.
Yeah, Cam Cameron.
December 10th was when they fired him.
Yes. Now, again, Jim was there, number one. So, again, you're not bringing somebody from outside the organization. I think it was the quarterback's coach. And, so he was there. So, again, if you're talking about whatever your favorite, whatever you think, even though nobody knows anything about Parks Frazier or Scott Leffler or even Jason Michael who's been here, whatever your favorite flavor is, that's who you'd be talking about. Not Frank Reich, not Chip Kelly, not anybody. You can't
bring in somebody from outside.
Well, some people want to. Well, you said Frank's done coaching in Stanford. Bring Frank Reich in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, you can't make a plan off an outlier.
Yeah. And maybe they should have had a more senior guy, like Jim had been a head coach in Indianapolis, long time head coach in college, long time quarterbacks coach. Maybe they should have had the Morningwood type. But again, they did that on defense. They did that. They had a young coordinator, and they had Matt Patricia there. Break glass in case of emergency. He's probably going to win a national championship.
Well, I think that's a fair criticism of this team. That they didn't put a safeguard in case Kevin Patullo didn't work out. Like,
that's
John, coming off a Super Bowl, and you put a first-time play caller with no real backup plan if it doesn't go right. That to me.
Well, that was one. If you
had ownership, I mean, come on.
If you go back to 2021 when they hired Nick, that was one of the criticisms. That was that coaching staff just had a bunch of unproven guys on it. Just everybody was unproven, including and starting with the head coach. It's like, who's Nick Sirianni? And then, Shane was like barely called plays. I don't think he called plays at all. He might have had a game or two. And he wasn't calling plays as the offensive coordinator anyway, originally as it was set up. It was just a bunch of Jonathan Gannon had never run a defense before. Nick Rollis, he was like 26 years old, and they kept Stoutland, and Brian Johnson was running quarterbacks that done, it was incredibly young and unproven staff. It worked. So people say, well, you can't do this. Well, they already did it. And had success. So to the point of the commenter, you can always point out these things. Doesn't make it. There's no one way to do things. But there ain't no Jim Caldwell on this coaching staff. I'll tell you that, who's proven. So, who's Jim Caldwell? And you don't have to give us, I'll ask him, you don't have to give us the super chat. Just say, who's your Jim Caldwell? Scott Leffler? Watch a lot of Bowling Green tape, do you?
Apparently he's got a good knack for it, John. Jim Caldwell, not to be confused with Dave Caldwell, who just left the Eagles. Let's go to our next super chat. Dirty D again. Dirty D, thanks for the supers, brother. Dirty D says, I hope the people throwing things at KP's house are just dumb teenagers. Yeah, I hope so too, honestly. Even then,
I certainly hope they're not adults. Because that's even worse. But either way, yeah.
If they are dumb teenagers, their father should take his belt off and whip them in the ass with it. That's insane to go and do that. By the way, I don't think anybody.
And by the way, if they are teenagers, what are they doing out at 2:50 in the morning? Again, keep an eye on your teenagers.
Yeah, ridiculous. I don't think anybody's going over the bridge to do that. So, where are my New Jersey fans? Come on, New Jersey Eagle fans. Here's Frankie Ray. What's up, Frankie? Hard Knocks is on tonight. I guess we'll get to see what's going on since Sirianni doesn't tell us anything.
Yeah, I think you're
going to be disappointed, brother.
I wouldn't hold my breath there, Frankie. So we'll see what's going on. I would not hold my breath. I think it'll be cool for fans to see some of the, behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, it'll be very sanitized for public consumption.
Yeah, that's tonight.
I'll watch it, but probably after all the shows are done. But I'm not going to watch it.
How do they do it? Have they been recording all year, or did they just?
Yeah, they're always there to the point it's annoying. Yeah.
So they do have footage from all year.
Yeah, they have. Well, not all. They weren't there early, I would say. They've been there for at least a month, I would say. Giant lights and I'm sure the Eagles are.
Let's see what we find out in Hard Knocks. Niall, what's up, Niall? Appreciate you, brother. He says, great play callers become head coaches in the NFL. Eagles will have a vicious cycle from the offensive coordinator position every year. Niall, it certainly seems that way, and it has been that way so far.
Well, everybody's on this kick of finding an old guy who doesn't have any aspirations to be head coach again, which is where I guess Frank comes in. Like I don't know if Frank doesn't have any aspirations.
Well, I mean, look at the Patriots last night. They got a guy who will presumably be there for a while because he's not going to get another head coaching opportunity.
Never underestimate the stupidity of
teams,
NFL owners. Josh is still only 50. Even though I think he's 50, even though he's at, because I was thinking about that the other day.
He's had what, two head coaching gigs already?
2 disastrous head coaches.
2 disastrous. You think he's going to get a third? Whew. Maybe.
Well, he's obviously one of the best offensive coaches in football. He was 33 when he's got his first job, so he was way too young, and just completely overmatched in Denver. And then the second gig was with the Raiders, who were just a disastrous organization. Yeah. So for the people that want to make excuses, but he's just not that guy, man. You have to be elite. Like people hire the wrong things. They want the scheme, but what they don't understand is they're not getting the leadership. Like Mike, that's the perfect spot for him. With Mike Vrabel's the leader who gets people on the same page, and he can just sit in a corner and be a curmudgeon and not deal with anyone. That's what you want. Sort of like Vic here, just sit in the corner and be your defensive genius. But when Vic was a head coach, it wasn't great. People are looking for the wrong thing when it comes to head coaches in this league. Not everybody, some get it, but most are looking for the wrong thing.
Well, there is a litany of success across the league with play calling style head coaches.
Yeah, in moments generally doesn't get you over the hump. Kyle Shanahan's the best in the business, man. Everybody, if there's anything
wouldn't you classify his run as pretty successful? How many Super Bowls has he been to? I know he didn't win one, so I get it.
Well, there you go.
The ring army.
Got to get over the hump.
Yeah.
Got to get over the hump.
Yeah, but you always talk about the difference there. I mean, that's a successful organization. You know what I mean? That there's this ring.
Kyle's great. Kyle, I've said it for years. Kyle is the best play schemer, and number 2 ain't close.
I don't know. I think Ben Johnson, man, is close.
No, nobody's Kyle. And
Ben Johnson does look good. Do you agree with that? Do you like Ben Johnson or?
Oh yeah, Ben's very good. Kyle's much more accomplished, and
he's been around longer for sure. Ben's a new flavor.
And I think Ben is a little too enamored with himself. Not that they're all egomaniacs, not that Kyle isn't, but I think he is. But Kyle is also, as to your point, he would have won a Super Bowl. Now he wasn't the head coach, but he would have won a Super Bowl with Atlanta if he just tempered the ego for a moment, but he didn't. And then with San Francisco, should have won a Super Bowl, but he's a bad game management coach because he's always bogged down thinking about play calls and thinking about what's coming next on offensively. Said the same thing with Sean McVay when they're playing the Eagles. He's not even paying attention. None of these guys pay attention. Matt LaFleur, it was actually Matt. They're all the same.
Oh yeah, he was on the sideline on his pad.
Not even paying attention.
I saw that. I was versus the Eagles. That's interesting. All right, Niall. Thanks for the super brother. Here's Pumper. What up, Pump? He says, I just believe that Jalen Hurts' horrific play has impacted the team negatively. It got to a point where he got drilled late and no one gave a shit.
Yeah, somebody brought that up.
Is that what happened there? He got.
Yeah,
I remember the call.
And it did. Nobody sort of like in other places. If the quarterback gets hit, everybody will run to it like it's a damsel in distress.
Mailata used to do that for Jalen. Did he not do that on that play? I don't recall. So
I didn't remember, but I just heard that from somebody else this morning, and I got to go back and look. Now, Josh Allen got hit, and yeah, the whole Buffalo team came over. Who are they playing this week? Trying to protect Josh Allen.
They played the Steelers.
Steelers game, yeah. I was watching that game, and he got hit. Wasn't even late, but you know how and players just run over and try to protect the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, and a lot of with Jalen, he's so strong and so physically strong. Like a lot of people say, why doesn't he get personal foul calls? Because he never looks like he's getting destroyed.
And that's true.
Personal foul calls are about looking like you're getting destroyed.
Did you see Jackson Dart get creamed last night on the sideline?
Yeah, he's going to continue to get creamed.
Yeah, he better be careful.
Jalen is
you're going to get destroyed out there.
Jalen is so big and physical, he just doesn't look like he's in peril. Even though he is, everybody is, but and that's part of it. But as far as why teammates are not going over to protect him, yeah, that's not a good sign. I will say that.
Definitely not. I don't know if it actually happened on that play. I'm not sure where you heard it, but if it's credible or not. Pump, I love you, but I don't know that I can take your word for it.
Well, yeah, no, but I did hear that from somebody else as well. So
okay. Geez, maybe there's aloof comments are coming back here.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely he's not.
Yeah, but being aloof, is fine. A lot of quarterback, a lot of guys like that are weird, and they're not going to get along with everybody. But if you're at a point where your offensive line,
well, it is stunning to me how it's changed.
Flag, they threw a flag. They threw a 15-yard flag for roughing the passer there.
Yeah, well, he doesn't get a lot of roughing the passers, and that's
what
it's about.
But
that's what it's about. He just doesn't look like he's in peril, and unless you look like you're getting destroyed, they're like, he's fine.
Yeah, he was laying down there, but pretty good. His face was like, I remember his face being kind of like faced right into the ground for a little bit. Special K, what's up, dude? Appreciate you, Special K. He says, beyond offensive coordinator talk, why do the Eagles insist on a young quarterback room? Feels like an older veteran could help with the nuances of the position. I think that's a great comment.
Well, they've had older backups. They
had Flacco. They had
I mean, they had Nick. They had Flacco. They had Marcus Mariota. Yeah, they've had. For them, the backup quarterback position is about having somebody competent. So if your quarterback does get hurt, you don't lose a season. And B, if they can get a cost-effective one, they want it, and that's where they feel they are with Tanner. But they've had older quarterbacks. Gardner, they brought in Gardner.
Special K follows up. He says, I mean, for Jalen, not all time. So, yeah, I mean, I think there is some for Jalen, but
Well, I mean, Jalen's had Joe, and he's had Gardner, and he's had Marcus. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They have.
How much older do you want to get here? I do think it's interesting. The thing I think that's interesting about the backup quarterbacks in this building are that none of them are Jalen's style, you know? Now, maybe that's a good thing,
Well,
but
you can't.
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, that part is because we've had.
Nobody's going to play Jalen's style.
Yeah. I've had that discussion with Nick. I mean, you can't find another. That, sometimes.
Sometimes I just feel like this coaching staff doesn't know how to coach Jalen, John. Like if you think about it, and I don't want to go through the whole revisionist history of it and relive it all. But when they hired Nick, he was hired to help Carson Wentz get back on track. Then Carson Wentz didn't want to play. Then they brought in like a litany of passing guys over the years, even as recent as Kevin Petula, who was a passing coordinator. They brought in Kellen Moore. These are all passing guys. These aren't RPO you know what I mean? Like
they hate it.
Yeah.
If you give every single one of them true serum, they don't want to play this style. 100%. I'm talking about Nick. I'm talking about Kevin. I'm talking about Kellen. None of them want to play this style. You saw the style Nick wanted to play when he got here. But, I argue that's a feather in his cap. He shifted to take advantage of the strengths of the quarterback he had rather than the bad coaches like Kevin O'Connell right now. Doesn't matter who you have, you do the same stuff, even though you're incredibly limited. And that's an extreme example. Obviously, Jalen's a very good player, but he's a unique player. How many times have I used that word?
A lot.
And I think that is one of the biggest feathers in Nick Sirianni's cap, that he's actually had this success building a unique thing around Jalen Hurts to the success level that they've had.
Fair enough. One more chat we got to get to here. Martine says Slay was come on, Martine. Slay was a healthy scratch for the Steelers. Do you think he will pull a Thielen and ask for his release? And would the Eagles be interested in a reunion? I did not expect this.
No and no.
Yeah, no and no is right.
Yeah. I don't know.
Good stuff there. All right, good stuff, everybody. Appreciate everybody for being here today. John, I want to one other thing I wanted to hit on here. Where the hell was it? Somebody put a comment in I wanted to bring up here. Well, real quick, John, on the I know he's kind of a hot name right now, and I'm not going down this road because I don't think it's where they'll go. I don't even think it's possible. What do you think they're going to do with Tanner McKee's contract when it comes up? Do you think they're going to keep him around, or will they let him go, or will they trade him this offseason before his contract's out?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ifs and where they're going to go. I mean, if they rekindle and success, obviously the goal is to keep winning at a high level, and then it would be to spin him off and trade him, and that's why Howie brings in quarterbacks and at least once every 2 years to keep the.
You talk to anybody in the building about how they feel about him? Do they like him? Do they, or
they definitely like him. Now, I think there's a lot of people that, they love a lot of fans that, natural, often when the starting quarterback is struggling, the backup quarterback is the most popular person in town. That's not a new thing in the NFL because no one's seen him and they haven't seen the warts. But I think there's tremendous upside in Tanner McKee, and the organization likes him. And, if things continue to go wrong, maybe you'll even see him at some point, but that's a long way off down the road. As far as long term, as I said, the goal is that, this is only his second season. The goal is third season, excuse me. The goal is to obviously spin him off, but the problem there is it's going to be difficult to get that high level pick if he never plays.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people are saying, take advantage of Minnesota, for instance, and get a second round pick. Well, you never say never because the GM there is awful, but and you're counting on it. But generally, when you're talking about first, second round picks, they got to play, and it might be like a 3-game stretch. It's got to be a stretch. If Jalen sprained his ankle or something of that nature, and he came in and he was lights out for 2-3 games, that would help you get a big time pick for Tanner McKee. Right now, there's no.
How far are we from reaching that point? I mean, I don't think we're reaching it now. We're 8-4, but the offense has been pretty objectively bad all year, John. I mean, if they let's just say they lose let's say they lose the next 2. Are you anywhere near that territory? Still
No.
probably not, right?
No. I don't think he has that kind of upside. At least from the Eagles' perspective. They're not going to bench their $50 million quarterback for Tanner McKee.
Too much politics involved in that, right? It's not just
there is some politics, but I think it's mainly one guy's better than the other, and it's not Tanner McKee. Pumper, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, look, everybody gets so upset when you talk about Tanner McKee. It's so funny.
Really? They used to get upset when I talked about Jalen Hurts.
They get upset when you talk about anybody, John. These people are just spots. Keep wishing Zander. I'm not wishing for shit. I'm talking about a player on the team that's being talked about right now in Eagle Land. It's a talk show. If you can't handle it, go watch something else.
Well, I mean, guys,
Eagles PR staff puts out a bunch of content for you, brother. You'll like that maybe a little bit more.
Well, I'll say this. This will sum it up. You can't call Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo and anybody else you want to call an idiot if you're out there, if you're one of the proponents, you should start Tanner McKee and Tank Bigsby.
Well, I think Tanner McKee is just a name. Like I think it's that people are seeing that you're not utilizing the assets on the team, the weapons on the team properly. And that's where it comes in is the style of quarterback a wrong fit for the team. You turn on the Cowboys, you watch them get these receivers involved. You turn on the Rams, you watch them get these receivers involved. You look at the other team. You watch Drake May last night. He's getting Stephon Diggs looking like prime Stephon Diggs again. I mean, that's where I think it comes from. I don't think it is. I think Tanner McKee is the name right now. That's the fill-in for it.
Well, he's the backup.
I think that's fair. I mean, look, anybody.
I mean, there's
the most use out of our weapons on this offense. I think most logical people would say no.
Well, yeah, but you would need to fix the offensive line even more so for Tanner McKee. I mean, my God, you're not extending plays.
Pass blocking is not the offensive line's issue.
Well, people are going to play you differently. There's going to be, probably more pressure because the
ball would have to come out. That's for sure.
Yeah. The ball would, and in a lot of ways, I think, Nick would be a little bit happier and Kevin would be a little bit happier. And I think you would have much more passing yardage. I don't think there's any doubt about that until he gets hurt. However, I think, wins would turn into losses. And interceptions would pile up and there'd be big plays and there'd be big plays going the other way. And, you'd be more like everybody else. And, hey, he had a good week and he had a bad week and we're 9-8 or 10-7. And maybe you're the 7th seed. And maybe you get a playoff win and you turn into that team. And then you get blitzed in the divisional round. You turn into that team. Right. Now, early, then maybe he develops. But yeah, I don't like the Drake May comparisons because Tanner's 6'6" and Drake's 6'5", and they're big,
Well,
strong guys.
I was just using different quarterbacks that have done a good job of getting weapons involved. I mean, we have not done that for 2 years, even with the Super Bowl team last year. I mean, AJ Brown did everybody just like forget what happened last? I mean, AJ Brown was reading books on the sideline. It was a national story for like 3 weeks. Does nobody remember this? We couldn't pass the ball well last year either.
No, they ignored it at the time. Why would they remember it now? We would talk about it on this show, and I'd get eviscerated for bringing up hey, they're not very good passing the ball on a consistent basis, which is the most uncontroversial thing I've ever said. They would change their style of offense with Tanner McKee, and it would look better for the people that want passing offense.
Eduardo, what's up, Eduardo? This question is for both of you. Hypothetically speaking, we fire KP next season. Who would y'all want as our OC and why? That's a good question. I think you got to go to college if you got Jalen. I mean, you got to get an RPO guy. Got to get somebody who knows how to scheme it up that way. They keep bringing in these passing guys, man.
Well, Jalen doesn't want to run anymore, so I think I think
that's a big problem, John.
I think the much bigger question is who would you want at quarterback? Because whoever you get at offensive coordinator, as I said, you're going to get the same style of offense unless you want to change the quarterback, which is a much more difficult discussion. I don't think it. I think you now have a large sample size, and it all looks very familiar, no matter who's running it. And then it becomes, are the players? How are the players playing? The spikes and the downticks. The offense itself, if you're being honest, looks very similar. And if anything, it's more creative this year than last year out of necessity. If you're being honest, but people have a lot of trouble being honest when it comes to evaluating players. So I don't think it matters, but typically I think judging by the way it works, they would want an experienced guy. Because the inexperience didn't work. That's how coaching works. So if you're firing the players coach, you want a hard-nosed disciplinarian. If you're firing the first-time offensive coordinator, you want a veteran guy. That's just the way it works. Yeah. These owners are really the only thing I can criticize Jeffrey Lurie about is that, he wants to blame somebody. And as Nick says, and Nick frustrates me more than anybody because I want real answers. He's right about it's never one thing. And everybody wants to boil it down to one thing because it's easy. So
I guess the question there then would be when does the owner become unhappy with the player?
Well, the owner becomes unhappy when they bow out in the playoffs early.
I don't know.
Likely in embarrassing fashion.
I don't think Jeffrey Lurie has that mindset, John. I can't. It's just my speculation. I don't have insight in.
He's already proven it.
No, but I'm saying I think he cares about how the offense looks on a week-to-week basis. I do. I think the way the team plays right now and wins sometimes bothers him. I can't speak.
I'm sure it does, but he's eschewed those issues to win Super Bowls and go, close to Super Bowl. I mean, yeah, he would prefer a different offense. Everybody knows that. But he has tempered that because of the success.
Right.
The minute that success dries up, he'll go back to, we got to do this. But he's not getting that unless he changes the quarterback. It's not about the coordinator. This is not a high volume passing offense. Pick your name. Pick your favorite. Frank Reich. Bring back Frank Reich.
Yeah, right. Well, here's the next super real quick. Let me get a couple more, and then we'll get Chris Franklin coming in. Papa Smurf says, do you think Hurts wants to be more of a pocket passer at this point in his career?
I think he wants longevity so he can continue to pile up $50 million seasons. But when it comes down to crunch time, I think he'll do whatever it takes to win a football game. But I think over wide ranging, he thinks more about, if I continue to play like this 17 games a year, I'm going to decrease my shelf life, which is understandable.
Here's Sammy Livingston. What's up, Sammy? When can we logically move off of Hurts? I can't believe we're reading super chats like this now, John.
Yeah, it is amazing how quick. But that's how quickly this league moves. And
you say it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I mean, they did, at one time, people forget because there's a lot of revisionist history. I mean, the Carson Wentz deal, he was the highest paid quarterback in the history of football. It's eerily similar, the two of them. Not to the point, Jalen hasn't dropped off to the point of, I don't want to make that comparison. But as far as being the face of the franchise, and now people all of a sudden, having questions. The most realistic out is after next season. But, if anything, Jeffrey has proven they will move mountains if he wants to move in a different direction. So, yeah. But most likely,
he's got a no trade too. So,
most likely after next season. But, I mean, it's ugly, but I don't think he's a bad quarterback, and I think you should be careful what you wish for. But it is an ugly offense, so I understand why people – and their assumption is, like, he's going to turn into this. And yeah.
I had a guy in the post game say it to me perfectly. He said, Zander, this is the thing with Hurts. Even when they're ultra successful, people still don't like the style of offense. And I think he's spot on with it. All right, let's go to Chris Franklin, who's joining us right here on Birds 365. He joins us now. You can follow him at C Franklin News. Chris, always a lot to talk about in Eagle Land. How you doing on this Tuesday morning, my friend?
I'm doing all right, man. You're right. It is crazy. You guys are getting questions like that early. Who would have thought? Like last year's Super Bowl, and yeah, here we are.
Boy, remember when winning a Super Bowl would give you what's it worth? 5 months now?
Just about, depreciate just a little bit now. Yeah.
I remember. I tell the story all the time. I remember sitting in a bar in Minneapolis, Bloomington, actually, and saying, "Well, Doug's got a lifetime dispensation card." Boy, was that the dumbest thing I've ever said. These people want more and more and more, Chris Franklin.
Yeah. And to think about the history that this franchise is going through and look at some of the coaches that they've had, it is rough. And I never thought to see the day that Doug would leave, especially even at the 4-12, and who would thought that the OC pick would be the thing that do him in. Now all of a sudden you're looking now, I don't foresee it happening. I think it might be 2019-ish, maybe 2018-ish, something like that. But yeah, man, it's rough to see they have to go through this conversation so soon too.
Well, I was thinking about Doug 2020 when it went off the rails. So the COVID season. Remember, Chris, that way deeper in the season, Doug admitted at one point that, he thought he needed a spark, and he gave some of the play calling. I forget what it was. It was like 2 minute, and it was like red zone to Rich Scangarella. The great Rich Scangarella was here for 1 year and never talked to the guy in person, only on Zoom, and Press Taylor. And nobody knew, Chris. And I bring this up because Nick could go, pick your favorite, Scott Leffler, because you love that Bowling Green tape, or Parks Frazier, or Jason Michael, the guys who have some play calling experience. They could make that change this week, and we'd never know. And unless it's overt and you can see the guy with the card on the sidelines and not paying attention, something like that. But Um, that doesn't that resonate with anybody? Doesn't it resonate to anybody who's like, "Whoa, this guy, I know play calling."
Yeah, it's tough to find out when you find stuff like that, like to see the mechanics and everything else. I would, and I speculate, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that. Or I love the recommendation Nick Foles made. And I think that's the best way to go. Put them in the box because it is really tough to see. Sometimes it is tougher to see when you're ground level to see how things are developing. Maybe move them up, and if you do that, maybe you can mask some of that stuff. If you want to mask it, saying, okay, he's calling third down, somebody else start calling third downs, and he's calling other stuff. Maybe that's the way. So that way you don't know which person to do because on Monday night ESPN's going to have cameras trained on him, and then if there's a play and we just see him standing around, and you're like, wait a minute, did he call that? Did somebody else call that? So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Speaking of being in the box, being in the box for the Chicago game, all I saw in real time was the Eagles defensive front getting washed inside time and time again by Darnell Wright and the Chicago Bears offensive line. I've never seen anything like it. Normally, I watch a game and Zander will ask me questions on the post-game show, and I'll say a lot of, like a coach, well, I got to watch the film. I didn't have to watch the film. It was like a sea. And it was always the right side of the Bears offensive line and the left side of the Eagles defensive front getting completely washed down. And there would be DeAndre Swift or Kyle Monangai just cutting back into these massive I-95 sized holes. And poor Sidney Brown's got to come up and miss a tackle. Boy, it was a terrible performance. In the micro, why is anybody? I get it. Macro, the offense is the issue. Defense has been solid, but in that game, Chris, the defense was atrocious.
Yeah, and to me personally, I think that was one of the worst games defensive line discipline wise I've seen them play in a very, very long time. Going back probably 2 seasons. Because I look at it the fact that you didn't have your backside guard, especially. Everybody was just looking for a sack, it feel like. Everybody was trying to go upfield, trying to pressure Williams, and forgetting their backside responsibilities. Next thing you know, you see Monangai and Swift cut back, and they're going up 2-3. And you got to credit Ben Johnson because there's 2 things I like that he did that I wish this Eagles offense did. You motioned over to one side, and it set up a good matchups that way too. And then you just had everybody confusing because you saw every time you move somebody over, you saw the communication the Eagles defense were trying to do, thinking they had the right answer for that. Next thing you know, it wasn't there. So that was probably one of the most undisciplined things, the most undisciplined moments I've seen that defensive line ever have. And I think it also is a little bit too. I wonder if it's a little bit of hero ball in the sense that this defense has been on the field for so long. They need to try to make a play. We need to make a turnover. We need a big play to stop because the offense hasn't been able to sustain so much drive. And so you look at the beating that they've taken. You've seen, and it's going to start. The thing you worry about now is starting with Monday on. They've been on the field for so long in these last few weeks. And we know we're getting to that part where it's starting, your body starts to grind, what have you. You can't have 36-minute, 40, allow the opposing officer to have 36, 40-minute in time of possession. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, we need our defense to make a stop. They're probably looking like, they won't never do it outwardly. They're probably looking down like, God, we're tired. Like, get us going. Like, get going so we can have some rest.
Well, I know one guy who's fresh, Chris, Jahad Campbell. Maybe throw him out there.
It's that, and that's another thing I'm worried about. Like I thought there would be, what has he done? I know Nakobe Dean's return, so that's a factor. But usually when there's a guy who's shown that he's been able to play or make some plays, that usually stays in field. What has he done either in practice or in the games that has made Vic feel like, you know what, maybe I can't consistently put him out there? And that was, and when I was looking, and I look like every time, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe there's something that he's not. Maybe he's doing the same thing that you thought that we saw last week, where maybe he's not containing well. Maybe he's not beating blocks as well. But it's one of those things I still try to pinpoint, but I don't get it. Like, he's a guy where you can use them as that Swiss Army knife, and you can get more pressure with these guys and maybe get off the field a little bit more, especially on third downs.
Yeah.
With him and Ball on there on third downs, what's going on?
It feels to me, Chris, and you tell me if you disagree with this, that the dam is breaking on the defense. I mean, they played 68 snaps on Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys. They come out on a short week and they play 81 snaps. A lot of that is because they couldn't stop the run, but it feels like all year this defense has been holding this team together. And A.J. Brown's alluded to it in post-game press conferences when people get mad at him, but I think he's speaking a lot of truth. Do you think that's a fair way to view the defense where I think the dam is breaking, Chris? I don't think they can hold this team together that much longer.
I'll take a page out of Jim Schwartz talking about baseball and the fact that when you look at it, it's almost like a bullpen. It really is. And early in the season, we see what so much for the Phillies sometimes when you throw the bullpen out because the starters, they only want to go 5-6. By the time middle of the year, towards the end of the year, they look gassed. It's the same thing with the defense as well. You look at it and you're like, even though they're young, and you can say, okay, well, they still have more tread tires than say the Commanders that have that weak type defense that, oh my gosh, we got old fast. You look at this, you think like, oh, they're younger. But you keep putting them in these positions where you have to bail out. You have to have them bail out. There's only so much you can ask for one unit to play well as much as you can. But they're on a field for so long, you've lost that effectiveness.
I agree.
And this is where a run game really comes in for an offense. The Eagles need to figure out that run game to keep them fresh, to keep them on the field and get them on there.
Well, let me go back to something you said, Chris. You said something about you agree with Nick Foles' recommendation to put Kevin Petula up in the box. I kind of like that recommendation as well. I brought that up with John, and I understand what John was saying. I don't think that's a top concern here on the Eagles' offense. How do you evaluate Kevin Petula here, Chris? I mean, this offense has been pretty bad all year long. How much role do you think he has in it? Do you think it's more Nick Sirianni's philosophy? Do you think it's the play of the quarterback? Or do you think it's Kevin Petula and he's done a poor job as the play caller and offensive coordinator?
Personally, I think he deserves most of the blame. I think he deserves most. I think he deserves. To me, it's almost like if I had to put a percentage, I think he deserves 60% of it.
Wow, that's a big
personally. Because I look at it the fact where, and then here's the thing. I think another probably about this is why I got myself, and that's why I wrote journalism major, not math major. Probably put another 25% on Nick because he's the overseer of the whole entire game.
Can I ask you where you were at 2:50 early Saturday morning?
I was here. I have an alibi. My car was in the middle. I had nothing to do with that.
I'm joking.
And for the record, whoever did that,
yeah,
I don't personally feel. They're dumbass. I'm sorry.
Scumbags. It's a complete joke, but look, I blame the quarterback most. I blame the quarterback 60%. Guys are on the field, man. Like, here's the thing I don't get, Chris, and I do want to remind me to go back to the Bears locker room because I know you were in there. I wanted to ask you about all the.
I didn't know you were in there. Okay.
But before I get to that, I'm like, and forget about because Petula's like the hot button issue, and the fans don't like him and all that kind of stuff. Think a guy like Jeff Stoutland. Really, Jeff Stoutland can't put together a run game, But there's a lot of demonstrated performance there over the years with Jeff Stoutland, one of the best assistants, regardless of positions. Just won the PFWA Legacy Award for assistant coaches. Put together one of the most historic rushing offenses in NFL history less than 12 months ago. And he can't develop a running. At some point, we got to blame the players. The Eagles, again, have had all this tremendous success. What's changed? Okay, yeah, Kellen Moore is in New Orleans. We're giving Kellen Moore this much credit? I mean, the quarterback is not playing well.
And I counter this. He's not absent. I say Jalen Hurts is not absent of any blame whatsoever. But also the fact that sometimes you can read the body language, sometimes you can read things. If you hear a play call coming in and you know it's third, like even second down or third down, whatever, and you know it's coming up and it's, well, if I'm a wide receiver, running those stop routes or the corner routes, here we go again. If I look at another reason why I say if you could tell Patullo or if you tell Sirianni, Jalen, just rip it. I don't care if it. Don't worry about don't worry about the interceptions. Just throw it across the middle, and you don't hammer that home. That one too, unless it's insubordination. If it's insubordination, then that's a whole nother. There's a whole nother problem where I think you deal with where you say I'm not doing this, I'm doing that. That's a whole nother problem that one too. But if I don't foresee that, I haven't heard that. So if it's not them hammering home, hey, throw it to the airport. We don't care. Just chuck it down the middle. Then I started looking at the coach like, how is your message not getting across? How are you not able to do this? And then I look at the play calling side. It's no rhyme or reason. For me, it appears like there's no rhyme or reason how certain things. Yeah, last game was probably Jalen's worst game I've seen him play this season. That's a fact. But I look at the overall picture.
And by the way, I think weather's a big part of that. Caleb Williams didn't play well. I think the weather was a big part of that. So that's contextual. But yeah, overall, I don't think he's having a great season throwing the football. I think that's fair to say.
I just look at how some of the plays are being set up. You run one thing and it doesn't set up for another. You look at like sometimes there's no consistent play concept where you say, "Oh, I saw this being run to set up this being done later on against a certain thing, against a certain defense." Like wrong. Like every time you see like one of those films, sometimes they'll flash. Somebody will flash like, "Oh, okay, I'm open." Yeah, I get that. Sometimes Jalen needs to hit some of the guys. A lot of times you're looking like, okay, they're running this concept. Why are you running this against a man? Why are you running this against stuff that your team runs more zone than anything? Why did you come out and say, okay, I think they're going to run this man? It's some rhyme and reason why I'm looking like I just that's why I put a lot of that on Patullo, on Sirianni when it comes to that setup there and overall the messaging. Maybe the messaging is not effective enough that it's getting to the quarterback and the other players. This is what you're supposed to do. So
that's a real thing. I think messaging is big, and sometimes everybody's got a shelf life in this league, and sometimes people just stop listening. So maybe that Nick Sirianni messaging isn't resonating as well as it once did. But I do want to talk about the Bears simply because so many ex-Eagles guys, most notably CJ, because people are interested, and he gave the wink about the offense, and Kevin Byard, big game with the interception, and DeAndre Swift, huge game. I know he wasn't happy about the way he was used here. Interesting story about DeAndre Swift. The Eagles wanted to get DeAndre Swift back, and Saquon was headed to Chicago, and then DeAndre said, "No, I'm going to." Isn't that interesting? It's like
it's very interesting.
But anyway, and then TJ's not even there because he was hurt. TJ Edwards, a lot of ex-Eagles. How much did they enjoy beating their old team?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I saw TJ. He was in the locker room. He was smiling. He was smiling just for everybody else as well too on that one too. But it was a lot of during a lot of the press scrums. I say they were saying the right things, and yeah, this is a good team because who knows? Maybe they see them again down the road. Maybe if things happen. But you could get a sense in talking to some of those guys, like a little bit off to the side. You can get a sense this meant a little bit extra to them, a lot more. And I was saying, and the funny thing was, I was right there when CJ was talking to Shady and that one and DJ because they had to phone. It was towards the end of there, and there was some more stuff that a little bit after that. It was, this meant personally to them. But it was also interesting though. There's not too many hard feelings. It looks like it could have been for show, whatever. But before the game, you saw Howie go over to CJ, give him a handshake, and it was brief, but you saw that as well too. So
did he say, "Hey, buddy"? Hey, buddy.
Hey,
gotta cut you. I'm gonna cut you.
No, it's not that. No, not that. But then also, he was talking to AJ Brown for a long time.
Yeah, I saw that.
A long time. That video, I didn't post it like showing up, but they were talking a long time. And I wonder. I think maybe they're talking about some of that frustration that was happening there and some other things as well too. So the Bears took it a little bit extra. Kevin Byard earlier in the week, and he reiterated after the week, he did say and that's what made me think that Ben Johnson took that decision to not defer the ball and receive. Bayer did say, if you get up on this team early, the fans will start booing if they're not as effective. And look, lo and behold,
Yes, they
look
will.
what
And
happened.
they
So
did start booing early.
Oh, they booed immediately, didn't they? They
Yeah.
booed, I think, after
Yeah.
the first.
Yeah.
that one too. You got the lady yelling, kill somebody, and all that stuff on the
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah.
It was an interesting experience. But the
Sometimes
Bears,
it's not a home field advantage when they're not playing well.
I agree with
I
that.
hate to break it to people.
I agree with that. Chris, I got to ask you, what do you make of the latest reports from Jimmy Kempski, Jeff McClain? We've talked about it here, but Jalen Hurts doesn't want to run the ball much anymore. Doesn't want a lot of designed runs in the plan. At least that's how it was reported. What do you think of that, and how much do you think it impacts the Eagles' offensive game plans?
sounds a lot like Donovan McNabb. That whole thing with saying I want to be a passer,
Yeah.
and that's why I wonder, like, because if it's almost thing like you want to try to change the narrative sometimes. He's trying to stay healthy for another season because the things is been he's not available. He's always getting hit, and then the main thing the one thing I see all the time. One thing he's a running back playing quarterback, what have you. Well, one thing try the narrative is you try. All right, I want to get these out the game plan. I want to try it in the pocket, and it's affecting this run game a lot because you don't have the edge rusher really respecting as much of the threat he's running. Now, looking at where they are right now, that mentality's got to go out the window. It really does, because you want to get things back on track, especially that run game. You want to get to rectify this offense. You need to have him starting to run the run more zone reads. I would be smart. Now, when you see the things about talking when Nick's talking about making some changes, or whatever, do you revert? I think we'll be surprised if you revert back to the RPRs, the run pass runs, because he saw it so effective. You can't make that the staple of your offense all the time. But I think you throw a little bit more in and just start getting those defensive coordinators' minds of, hey, he might be running it. He doesn't have to do it 10, 15 times a game. Just do it 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4. And not just to draw up the middle on 3rd and 15 where everybody's going like, where you split everybody out. It's like, okay, it's either going to be short passes or he's going to run. No, I mean, like, really, truly get back to the truth, because you can utilize AJ on those slants, and I dare a defense. There's not that many defensive backs that can stop him on a dig or a slant run. So they're going to be hauling ass to go ahead and stop him in the middle of the field. Run him around and if you run on the outside, the space is there. Do it on a first down. They like to run on the ball so much on first down. Do that. Have a run. Threat. It'll follow a tendency that's on tape already that they like to run. So you have that threat of, okay, Saquon's getting the ball. Oh, wait, he's pulling the ball. And next thing you know, you got so much space on the outside now because everybody's surprised. And now things start to change, that the shape of the defense in the back changes. And then you may be able to have more success down the field than you had before previously.
Is it that big of a deal? Because I hear, and I'm glad you brought in the context of having an impact on defenders, because I think that's a bigger part of it. But I think the number last year was 3.6 or 3.7 design runs per game. They're down to 1.6, 1.7. So they're down 2 design runs per game, which is significant. But is 3.6 significant? Is the starting point significant? Like, was it that big of a deal that we're blowing it up to be what it is? Because I think and really, some of those design runs are ineffective. The good ones are the quarterback draws, and I think they're still effective. And they ran one last week, which was effective. Is it that big of a deal? Is that going to fix this offense?
Yeah, I really do think it is, because when you look at everything, like when you look at the setup and how they've run in the past, if you're going to run that much shotgun, you might as well have that threat there. I personally, I don't know if you've heard me from in the box, I'm like, why are they running more pistol? Why are they running more under center? If you really want Barkley going that way too, if you're going to run more shotgun like they're running right now, at least throw that in more, because just sitting back on the left or right side, you're pretty much having a tell thing. Well, unless it's rare to do that pitch on the outside on the same side with Barkley's on the left, it's rare to do the pitch where he runs out with short side. You pretty much know he's going right in the middle on the right. So you're limiting the guesses that the defense has to make. So when you at least have that zone read, or the RPR, you at least making them think a little bit more. And maybe that gets away with you not running as much motion as you had before as well too. you're still stagnant and it still doesn't help as much. But at least if you're doing that, you can at least you give them more to think about. And it just seems like, and as we heard last week with the Bears defenders, as we heard previously with some other defenses previously, it has become predictable because you can sort of see what's coming down that way. And if you're gonna make it this predictable, why even have this much money invested to the offense that you have? Because you're not getting most of those guys.
That part of it's going to change because it has to change. I mean, you have to start paying some of the defensive players, and I always explained that before. That's more circumstance. The demonstrated, proven players, which are already becoming the demonstrated descending players, are getting paid the most money because they're on their second and sometimes third contracts, sometimes fifth if you're Lane, however how many Lane has had. But it's interesting you brought that up, and I'll end it there. At C Franklin News, make sure you follow Chris on the X platform. We constantly say, because of what they get paid, how talented the Eagles offense is. What's more talented right now, today, December 2nd? I got to look at the calendar. December 2nd, 2025. Who's more talented, the Eagles offense or the Eagles defense?
I still say it's the offense is being heavily underutilized. I still look at the guys that you have on there. If you play someone any other team right now, you place them on the Rams, I still see them being effective. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I still think if you put Quinyon Mitchell on any side or any other team, that team is all considered better. Put Cooper DeJean considered better. But I look at these guys, and I think the way this has been so ineffective in how they've been utilized this year, and I still think some of the guys on the line are still banged up. I think Landon just needs. It's one of the things where you have to keep him playing, but he could benefit from 3 or 4 weeks being shut down because I think there's still stuff still nagging, and then you see what happens with Lane Johnson. But when these guys are healthy and you put in this whole thing, and even right now, I still think there's more talent on there as well too. Maybe the cornerback two spot is influencing me right now. Looking on that side, it's kind of close, but I still think there's more talent on that offense. It just needs to be utilized a lot better than what it is right now. But I still think this team should be averaging 26, 27 points a game. I just think there's that much talent on it. It's not.
I'm with you. Chris, final question for me, man. A lot of fans going down the 2023 route. Are you getting any of those feelings from this football team? Obviously, a different look in that it's not the defense this time around. Do you feel like 2023 collapse is being relived here in 2025?
I think it has the looks of it, but I think even with that schedule, you could say, I think even with the schedule, it'll prevent that from happening. But because I know we thought beforehand the Arizona Cardinals weren't going to come in here and beat them.
Yeah, right.
I know that too. And they still won the division with Henry. Said it.
Giants too. Didn't we lose to the Giants in that freaking collapse?
Yeah, that was didn't they stop? AJ got hurt like in the first series, and that wasn't the game where they had the scoreboard watch and Dallas was.
Yep. And they pulled everybody
put the game away. Yeah, and they pulled that was kind of a wonky game, but
MetLife. I hate that.
Yeah, MetLife.
But
AJ hurt in that short time he played. He hurt his knee, and he wasn't able to go in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that was just a bag from the jump. It was like one of those things. Like, well, we see how this is going, and it was one of those things. I think there's elements there, but I think it's better. Yeah, I think it better. I do now. The only part I see is, are they one and done? The matchups they have right now, if it's the Packers, I still think the Eagles win that game, only because the Packers in big situations in that spot in the playoffs. Jordan Love has not proven to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Jordan Love is an X factor, and it could go negative as just as much as it could go positive. But Micah Parsons, I'm fearful of Micah Parsons. I need a dog when it comes to Micah Parsons because I'm fearful.
All right, Chris, make sure everybody goes and follows Chris at C Franklin News. Chris, it's always great getting you on the show, man. No egg in Patullo's house. All right, Chris, I know you don't.
I am totally again. I was not there. I I will, even if I'm indicted and saying that for two, I have proof and evidence that I
Chris
was at home.
Chris is cleared. I've cleared Chris from any wrongdoing. His
My arm
his
is dead. Nothing left in it. It's cracking and everything else. I can't even throw it as far as anymore. So yeah, I got nothing. Wasn't
his
me.
barbs are virtual. 60%
In
to
the words of
blame.
Shaggy, wasn't me. No, wasn't me.
All right, Chris, what's up, man? We'll talk to you soon. All right, brother.
All right, see you
Thanks,
guys.
buddy.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. There's Chris Franklin joining us right here on Birds 365. Great stuff from Chris Franklin. Always good to get another perspective in there. Johnny Mac, 60% Petula.
60%.
From my boy Chris Franklin.
That's an audio egg thrown at Kevin Petula.
I like that, an audio egg. Good stuff there. All right, John, we got some super chats we'll get to close out the show today. I do want to thank everybody for being here. A lot of good football conversation on the show. I know some people can't handle certain topics, but it's okay. You'll make it. You'll make it. All right.
It's okay.
It's just okay. Combo, all right?
Come on, baby ears. Yeah, I like to call them baby ears, like Vince Vaughn in Old School.
Let's get
on
to
the
some
earmuffs.
Chats. You're right. I like that actually. Got baby ears. Let's get to some super chats. Sammy, we got Sammy. Sammy, thank you. Pumper, what's up, Pump? What is this narrative about Tanner getting sacked a lot? Our current quarterback is a statue. Plus, McKee would throw guys open, unlike one Reed Hurts.
Come on, dude. Pumper takes it too far. He might be able to throw people open more than Hurts. Probably is capable of throwing people open more than Hurts. You're going to compare the mobility of Jalen Hurts and Tanner? Come on. Why? You make a good point. You lose all credibility with. Come on.
Well, Pumper pushes what is it called? The Overton window or whatever you call it. He pushes it all the way in hopes that it moves just a little bit. I don't know. Maybe in a way he's done that this year, John. We started off as he was the only Tannerite, and now we got several of them. Jason 18, what's up, Jason? Jalen was only worth the $50 million when he take his running and passing together. If he doesn't run, he's not a $50 million quarterback. I always thought that's why he got 50.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's part of his game, and I think it'll show up more as you get in high leverage situations. Certainly, the playoffs, he's going to do anything it takes to win a game. But if you're just talking about, and again, there's tons of context to it. And a lot of it is tush push related, which is kind of, you have to sort of mold that. You sort of have to take them out, but they've been doing it so much over the past couple of years. I don't know where it's, let's see, I told you the designed runs, which is 3.6 to 1.6, 3.7, I think, to 1.6. That's how much it's down.
I think the bigger concern there is the reported unwillingness more so than the numbers.
Which I think is I agree, and I'm like, is that really that big of a deal from the standpoint of if it clears itself, if it becomes what I think it's going to become, is it that big of a deal? In other words, when they're trying to be cautious early in the season, then amp it up late in the season, which I think is what's going on. Now, if it doesn't happen, then I think it's fair to revisit. Is it that big of a deal? And is 3.6 design runs that big of a deal? Is it?
Yeah, fair.
Is that going to change the whole offense?
Well, remember,
now, to Chris's point, the context is more of a threat, and that part of it I'll listen to more. That part of it I think is a good point. But from the reality, they've never done it that much. It's just now you're more at the level of a normal quarterback. Now, and I'm taking tush pushes out of it, obviously.
Yeah, but I think to the comment to Jason's point, like you just referenced, like normal, like Jalen's always been a different type of quarterback.
No, and if it doesn't pick up late in the season, as I think it's going to pick up, then I think it's worth revisiting. Unfortunately, you have to wait and see. I think it's already started to pick up. He's starting to do it more. And again, I think the only relevant ones are the quarterback draws and some of those are audibles at the line of scrimmage. So much goes into it. It really is like he did the quarterback draw, which was complete change, kill one play to another at the line of scrimmage. So do you even credit that as a design run? Because they didn't come out of the huddle with that as the idea, but it ends up being a design run. Like there's so many. This is what Nick tries to get across, and it doesn't resonate. And I get why it doesn't resonate. Like the late plays in a huddle. Anybody watch Matt Stafford this week? I watched a lot of the Rams game because it was close with Carolina.
Yeah, I watched.
You watch Jared Goff, and now you watch Jalen Hurts. Those guys. Do people realize those guys take it down to 2 seconds on purpose? Like, do people realize that? Like when they say, "Oh, the play call's not," do they realize that those quarterbacks are using all the time allotted to on purpose?
That's not what's happening with Philly, right?
Well, it's happening more in Philly. I don't think he does it as effectively, but
Who
it's
do you
happening.
put the operational problems on? Patullo and Nick getting the play call in, or Jalen at the line?
Well,
let me read a quote though to you to add context here, because a lot of people are going to immediately go to Patullo. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Yesterday, Ben Johnson, on a comment on Caleb Williams, he says, "What you guys don't see is how smooth that operation was on Friday. I thought that was one of the better jobs he's done getting the play call and getting out of the huddle." He added, "I screwed up a play call and he made it right for me." That's Johnson speaking about Caleb Williams when it comes to the operation. The only thing I think that's relevant about that quote is that he insinuated the quarterback has a lot more to do with the operation, and I think many would believe.
He's trying to blow smoke up the young quarterback's heads.
Where do you feel
no, but here's the thing. Like, I think everybody's hyper focused. That's what you got to pay attention. If you want to pay attention to it, and it's very difficult because I don't even know you can do it live at a game, and maybe I'll do that. You got so much going on. It's very difficult, but the key number is not the play clock. Now, Jalen has more autonomy. Caleb Williams is like Jalen Hurts in 2021, where he didn't have much autonomy at all. Jalen's got much more autonomy now. So he does stuff at the line of scrimmage. Now, you can argue, should he have that much autonomy? That is a legitimate argument. The number to look that when do they get out of the huddle? That's then the play caller's out. That's it. If that's 8 seconds, if that's not enough,
right?
Then you blame it on the guys, and that's why I bring up the guys who are manipulating the clock. Matthew Stafford's trying to get every piece of information he can possibly get before he snaps that football. Now, there's other times you go tempo and it changes, but you see all those guys, all those veteran quarterbacks, and they always snap the ball at 1 or 2. They're doing it purposefully. Nobody notices because it's usually pretty seamless, and nobody cares because they're effective. But when you see these young quarterbacks taking it down, and for some reason Jalen sort of in the middle, everybody goes, "Well, you get the play in too late." Not necessarily, and that's why it's again. When do you get out of the huddle? Don't look at the play clock and you're going, "There's 2, there's 1." Sometimes he's doing that on purpose,
right?
So again,
let's rattle through some of these. John, what's on the agenda real quick? Coordinators today, right? Or do they push it back as the Monday game?
No, that schedule's still not out. It's an extra day. So we're probably not going to get, we might get down there tomorrow. They might.
But you're not heading down there today?
No.
Okay.
No.
Here's Domenico. I like that name. What's up, brother? He says, give me year 2. Give me year 2 over year 6 Jalen growing pains.
Come on. You won a Super Bowl in February. Can we get the 12 months? You're the same people shitting on me for saying, hey, you know what? There's some flaws in Jalen Hurts. No, he's the Super Bowl. Where did he's the Super Bowl MVP? Where did those people go?
They're in here.
Uh,
Original Philly's in here. Miles is in here.
I mean that. Well, they're bullshit too. With he's a Super Bowl MVP.
I
So
like the Jalenites. We got a lot of Jalenite listeners, John.
So the people who think he's above criticism are also ridiculous. But for the people that think you should bench or move on from the quarterback for Tanner McKee, my God. Is there ever just go sit in a dark room and think about what you're saying? What has Tanner McKee done?
Again, it's what I said earlier. I think it's the people that are upset with the way the offense is running. Alfredo says we would see change, no more 3 and outs so frequent. He's talking about the change in coordinator here. He thinks that changing the coordinator would help the 3 and out rate. Do you agree with
that? No. Changing the quarterback might, but I digress.
You're right. You just shit on the
well, I know. But
the
Eagles' best quarterback is the one playing. That two things can be true at the same time. Jalen Hurts is better than Tanner McKee, and changing offensive coordinators to again pick your poison. Scott Leffler, Parks Frazier, which I'm sure you all have documented info on. Jason Michael.
You haven't heard John Scotty Leffler called plays at the Great Bowling Green?
Oh, I got all the Bowling Green tape. Phenomenal. I'm surprised he wasn't at Alabama, considering how much success he had at Bowling Green. But to the point about less 3 and outs, I mean, they could change. They could make that change and not tell you, and you wouldn't know. Wouldn't know the freaking difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. Here's a Pumper. Why does this quarterback need everything to be perfect for him to succeed? We're talking about a 6-year QB who needs coaching. His impact is nil.
Who's had more success than Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles over the past 4 years, besides the Kansas City Chiefs? And you could argue the Eagles have outplayed the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, why are all these other better performers? Why can't they be better? Yeah, they got better coordinators.
Well, come on, you've always added context to this conversation.
Well,
there's more variables to success than just that.
That's what I'm trying. But that's exactly what I'm trying to say. I mean, why doesn't logic enter the equation at any point? Maybe not for Pumper, but for regular people. Like, if they're such idiots and they're high school, and I brought this up with the high school stuff, and they don't know anything more than a high school scheme, even though they've coached in the NFL for 15 years and played football and yada, yada, yada in college and such, and they don't know anything better.
About the quarterback, though, and you bring up team success. Do you believe Jalen's the number one reason for the team? Maybe you do. I'm asking the question honestly.
Well, I think he's big, but again, who cares? Maine, but he's a big part of it. He's a big part of it.
I agree.
They don't win without Jalen Hurts. They'd have to do it in a different style, but they've been able to do it in a different style. It's very unique, as I always say, but he's very effective. He's not a top 5 quarterback, but he's a top 10 quarterback to 11. I always say he's probably 11 or 12 in his bad seasons, probably 7 or 8 in his good seasons. That's pretty good. There's only 32 starters in this world on the planet who are NFL starters. And if you're 7 or 8, that's pretty freaking good.
Incredible. I don't know if he's 7 or 8 right now, but
10 or 12, it's still pretty freaking good.
Fair. Here's Pump again. If we're gonna blame coaching for slow operations, we better hold the quarterback accountable as well. Processing, running, throwing, and handing off slow as F. Stuck in mud. Yeah, I think he sent this 15 minutes ago. So.
Yeah, that getting at, if you do want to pay attention to that stuff and you want to blame Kevin, it's not getting down to 1 or 2 seconds. It's when they get out of the huddle. And if you can measure that, that's what you should be measuring, because if that gets too late And that gets under, you don't even want to get under 15 seconds if you can. But it depends on the coach. Like some of them like to talk to now because they're such egomaniacs. They like to talk to the quarterback right up until the 15 seconds, wipes it out. You can't talk to him. It kills it at 15. They like to talk, especially to younger quarterbacks. They like to talk to him that entire time. But when it comes to, again, the veteran quarterbacks, the Staffords, the Goffs, those guys always take it down to 1 or 2 seconds purposefully, even on the road. Always. And I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Fair enough. One more super chat on the day here, John. Motorscape. What's up, Gary? What's better for the Eagles, a Week 13 change in offensive coordinator or multi-year consistency at OC?
What's better for? Well,
Lurie might not even want to be the OC here next year.
Yeah, well,
Can
that's
you blame him?
Multi-year consistency. Yeah, you're a shit show if you're changing the coordinator in Week 13. It's actually Week 14 of an NFL season.
Yeah,
you're a shit show. You're Chip Kelly and the Raiders. You're Brian Daboll and the Giants, firing a head coach.
Yeah, it's true. It's just a disastrous move.
Yeah. Like Sean Desai in 2023. You're a shit show if you do that.
All right, John, your final thoughts today, my friend.
That's it. Shit show. No.
AJ Brown comment has returned. Shit show.
Players got to play better. That's my comment. You want to boil it down? That's my comment.
And AJ was right. Can I get that on there? AJ has been right the whole time.
Yeah, AJ's been saying, it's not, to me, this should be stipulated.
Yeah, but they were successful without being a high-volume passing offense last year.
Yeah.
They're not this year.
Yeah, because they have no freaking running game.
Yeah.
They're pretty much the same passing the football. Actually, slightly better. Again, from the total numbers, I think they're 23rd in passing, which is, I think they were 28th in passing last year. Now, if you want to go the advanced stuff, that tells you they're not as efficient, which is fair if you want to go with more advanced numbers. But from a total yardage standpoint, they're actually better this year passing the football. But again, total yardage doesn't mean more efficient. And generally, the more they pass the ball, not a good thing for this particular setup. But when you can't run the ball, you got to pass the ball. And they're sort of playing left-handed right now, is how I'll describe it. Not some people are left-handed, but most people are right-handed. So I'm not trying to. They're sort of playing left-handed.
Oh gosh, we don't have to add in a stipulation to make.
Well, you do every. Of course you do.
Oh my gosh, our world, man.
Accuse you of being unfair to left-handed people, but it's a common expression for those who don't know. And they're playing left-handed because they can't run the football, and they don't want to play that way. And they're not built to play that way. And again, you don't change that in Week 14. You've prepared for months to play a certain style of football, and it's not effective. So you don't just wake up and say, hey, you know what? Scrap it.
John, good show, my friend. Good show, my friend. What will we learn in Eagle Land today? We got Hard Knocks, so we're going to find something out. I'm sure something will go viral.
I don't know if I'm going to watch that. So you're
I'll watch it. I'll let you know.
I guess I'll try to watch. That's weekly, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's 9 p.m. too. Why 9 p.m.? Can we drop that sucker at 7?
Well, that's what I mean. Is it on demand? Like, I should have asked them for a screener. I didn't. Yeah.
Let me look. Let me see if I can get that info for you. Yeah, I think it's HBO Max, John.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, like, is it on demand? Can I watch it now?
Oh,
you have to wait till 9 o'clock.
I think you can watch it on demand after it airs. but you can't watch it before it airs. So it's like 9. It's like
I don't
first
like that.
365. You can watch it on demand after it's done, but you can't
Yeah.
watch it at 6
Then
a.m.
I'm watching it even later. So I'm probably not going to watch it tonight, but
I'll tune in for it. All right, Johnny Mac. Good stuff, brother. Talk to you tomorrow, my man.
All right, see you.
Later, dude. There's John McMullen joining me right here on Birds 365. Follow him at JF McMullen. Great show today, everybody. Appreciate all the super chats. Mad at everybody. It doesn't matter what kind of fan you're. You get mad at something. I mean, holy crap. The chat is hilarious today. I love all you guys in the chat. Even the Jalenites. I love all the Jalenites, too. You know, we got a great community of people here. We really do. We got Jalenites. We got Tannerites. We got Nick Sirianniites. We got Kevin Patuloites. We got everybody. You name it. JAKIB Sports is a melting pot. JAKIB Sports is a melting pot. That's right, you original Philly. You and M. Reyes and Miles Morales. Is it Miles Morales, like a Spider-Man or some shit? Why does that goofy-ass dude have that as his name? All right. I'm an AJite too, Wild Bear. You and me both. AJ's been right all along. And all the people have been crying about, he tweeted it though. You know, just don't tweet it. No, how about him? How about he's just right, okay? How about I don't care the way he delivers the message? He's just correct. All right? He's just absolutely stone cold correct. All right? Interesting stuff. I'll take some comments from the great people of JAKIB Nation. All right? You could be a Jalenite. You could be a Tannerite. But you're all Jacobites. How's that? All right? Even the JAKIB haters. You know, it's funny. You know how many people hate? Well, I've learned this recently. How many people don't comment in the chat, but they hate watch me? They hate watch JAKIB. They hate watch me. They hate watch Johnny Mac. They record me on their little phones or their little devices. They make videos. This guy said this about my boyfriend. Can you believe he said this about my boyfriend? Oh, my God. We got a lot of those people, man. We got a lot of those people. If you're watching right now, what's going on, everybody? Keep crying. Chester, what's up, Chester? I retired yesterday. Nice. Going with my kids to LA to watch the Eagles crush the Chargers. Oh, Chester. Oh, Chester. Oh, man. Chester, I hope this team doesn't drop a certified stinker for you. Because let me tell you, anybody who went on Black Friday, who went on the holiday, who spent their hard-earned money to go and watch that team on Friday, they got a stinker. They got an absolute stone-cold stinker. Chester, I am hoping you do not get another stinker. All right? All right. Curtis, what's up, Curtis? Zander, things are changing. Jalenites can't even watch WIP anymore. It's not a safe space. Well, you know, Curtis, I invite all opinions here. You know, I don't want to become an echo chamber for any line of thinking. You know, I think it's fair to have everybody. That's the whole point. You know, as long as you're not an asshole and you're respectful, I think most people, I guess, are to some extent. But, you know, not respectful. Maybe that's not the right word. Add good opinions. You know, state your claim and back it up. I think that's what creates the best conversation ultimately. It's not about just being slanted toward one player or one coach or one thing or another. To me, it's about the pursuit of the truth in a way. You know, it's about putting everything in the pot, allowing everybody to speak, and the winners will come out on top. You know, I don't even look at myself as the winner. I look at myself as the guy who's trying to facilitate the conversation. You know, there is a good asshole to softy ratio. I would agree with that. I think you probably put me in the asshole category. I'm all right with that. I'm all right with being an asshole here and there. Here's 215. No original Philly. Hell no. I'll say Hurts isn't trash on my deathbed. Hurts is or isn't? I thought is. Yeah. He meant is. He meant is. Let's see what M. Reyes has to say today. What up, Reyes? Where is he? There he is. Truth is, this is the best stretch of Eagles football in history, and there have never been more fucking crybabies than now. Reyes just wants to wear his Jalen Hurts jersey in peace. That's it. He just wants to rub on his fat head in peace. All right. Please, just let me enjoy my Jalen night. Please. Reyes, you're right about that, though. You know, Reyes, when you have greatness in your vision, sometimes you got to be, though, you know. Reyes, sometimes you got to be. You know, go and listen to an interview. I was listening to an old clip that somebody posted up yesterday. All right, enough with the phone calls. Holy shit. I mean, I'm on a show here. I don't even know who this is. I was listening to a clip yesterday. Somebody posted up a Lane Kiffin. Obviously got the big LSU job, so, you know, there were some old clips of him. But he was talking about Nick Saban when he used to work for Nick Saban. And he used to say, the more we won, the harder Nick Saban was on us. And Rice, there is some beauty in that, Rice, and I think you can understand that. Where when you have greatness in your vision, in your sights, and you want to achieve not what the ordinary achieves, not what the ordinary NFL teams achieve, not what the ordinary Eagles football team achieves. When you want to achieve certified greatness, you know, in a way, you don't want to get complacent. You do want to keep pushing. You do want to be better. You know, and I thought that was an interesting bite from Kiffin on Saban. And obviously, I'm a big Saban guy. I'm not asking you to love him like I love him, but I think he's obviously achieved a level of success that, you know, most people would respect. And he's always said, when the better you are, the harder you got to be on yourself, on your coaches, on your players, on your team, because there is an element of, you know, what does he call it? Destination syndrome, I think he calls it, or something like that. You know, where, oh, we won. All right, take your foot off the gas. You know, he told the story of they won the national championship one year, and he calls the coaches into the building at 7:30 a.m. the next day. He's like, "Where the fuck are we meeting at 7:30 the next day? We just won the national championship." And Nick is like, "What do you mean? We're way behind on next year. Everybody else has been recruiting, game planning, and figuring out what they're doing next year. We won the natty, so we're way behind." Again, it's not a perfect example, but I think it just shows you, you know, sometimes the mind of greatness, Reyes, and I understand your comment. I'm not even shitting on it. I understand your comment, but in a way, I think positively, Jalen has brought this on himself in that, you know, he's professed the standard. He's professed the desire to win. And I think that's a good thing, you know, but with that comes great expectation, great responsibility, great standards, you know, all those different things. And I think in a way, I think it's a good thing. I do. I think it's a good thing. But I understand what you're saying. People do cry. People will always cry, Reyes. And you included, by the way. Jalen Hurts can drop a certified stinker, and you're up here like 52-3, woo! You know? Exactly. This is not the standard. This is bad. The person letting their foot off the gas like Rocky 3 is Rich Quan Barkley. I know you're just you're going that sake. Saquon hasn't been great. I'll give you that. All right. But Reyes, be real. You'll look for anybody to blame but Jalen Hurts. I'm not that way, you know. Manny, what's up, Manny? He says, dude, I've been critical of Hurts since day one. I have 2 of his jerseys because I want him to succeed. But if someone truly sucks, you can't change him. Keep the main read. Come on, man. That's a little hard, dude. I don't think he sucks. I mean, come on. He doesn't suck. Underdog. He stinks flat. He doesn't stink flat out. He does things well. There's things he doesn't do well. That's every quarterback in a way. I just think you put a bigger value on the things he doesn't do well, which is fine. You're entitled to do that. All right. We know and understand the offense is capable of much more. Therein lies my confidence. All right. Well, they haven't quite realized it. They only read the main read. Same bullshit every day. Stephen Papara, I hope you're not talking about Jacob. I think we give you a good back and forth. HKP, what's up? Xander, we need shirts called Keep the Main Read. At least something Jalen does well. Underdog says, he sucks in all caps. Oh, boy. Underdog, I'm telling you, the people of JAKIB Nation were looking for you on the post-game show on Friday, man. We had some new faces in there. We had some good takes. We had Niall on there. Niall, I thought, was great on there. We had a lot of good conversation on the post game, as we always do. That's the point of it, man. Get everybody in, give your opinion, give your take, share what your thoughts are on the team, on the quarterback, on the coaching staff. And that's the point, to have conversation with a bunch of different people and a bunch of different perspectives. All right. The man stares down his reads like a prom date. I love JAKIB. It's the Jalenites. Oh, well, look, I don't want to make this a place where Jalenites can't come. Jalenites deserve a voice too. Okay? Jalenites deserve a voice too. I am not a Jalenite. I'm not. I am not a Jalenite. All right. I think Jalen does things well. I think he's got great limitations, and I think it's very hard to win consistently when you got to build everything perfect around him. But that doesn't mean I can't acknowledge some things he does well either. I can acknowledge some of those things. Jalenite lives. That's hilarious. Slacker, you're going to get me in trouble. Here's JM Eagles. Oh, Jalen's comment last year. I guess he let me have my straitjacket. And Rams postgame this year mean nothing. The crap coming out of NovaCare is nothing but trying to save everyone else's ass. All right, JM, fair point. Fair point. Those are comments that would go to your side. But how about the other comment? There's comments that kind of support both narratives here. JM, remember what he also said? The offense is going to look how Jalen Hurts wants it to look. Remember he said that? He did say that. Joey Merlino and Snuffy, dude, I love Snuff. He is so funny, that guy. I laugh so hard at his Instagram post. Snuff, you bed bug. I'm right. It says a bed bug. I love him, though. And by the way, they make good cheesesteaks. They do. They got a good steak. I hope they maintain it. A lot of times a new place will come up. They got great stuff in the beginning. Everybody gives them the good reputation, and then they fall off, or they stop caring, or they get cheaper ingredients. Hopefully not. All right. Zander, Jalen is a Lincoln, and we are looking for him to be a Bugatti. Big Mike, I don't think that's unfair. Are the Tannerites the same people? No, I think the Jalenites are the same as the Wentsians. Original, I think you're wrong about that. Remember, Original Philly, don't get it wrong, okay? The Jalenites are the ones right now throwing eggs at Petullo's house, making videos calling me a racist because I don't think Jalen Hurts has been good this year. These are all Jalenites. And the Wentsians were the people who gave death threats to Joe Santoliquito for writing an article that he wasn't a great leader. Same people. Remember, they gave death threats to Joe Santoliquito. Death threats. Because he wrote an article about Carson Wentz. Now, years later, everybody's like, oh, yeah, Carson Wentz was a locker room cancer. People will protect their quarterback. Fans will protect their quarterback. They don't care. So, no, I think you have it wrong. I think it's the other way around. That's stupid. Yeah, I know. Somebody made a video accusing me of being it's deeper than football. How about just fucking play better, guy? You got fucking playmakers everywhere. We're a bottom-ranked offense in the league. How about just take away the names? I don't even care what the names are, all right? Where do you rank A.J. Brown? Where do you rank Devontae Smith? Where do you rank Dallas Goedert? Where do you rank Saquon Barkley? Where do you rank the running back? Where do you rank the talent? And what's the offensive output? Is it living up to the output? Is the sum of the parts make sense? I don't think so. I don't think so. You're not getting over on me, Jalenites. I don't think so. This offense objectively blows. It blows. We've been saying it all year. The offense blows. All right. Classic stuff. What up, Q? Everyone's saying this team is stacked. Aside from AJ and Devontae, where are we stacked? Just curious. Well, they were stacked at once upon a time. Maybe you're right, Q. That's what John's been saying. Maybe we're not as good as we thought. Brian, what's up, Waddington? I like going back and forth with Waddington because he's got this weird, like, he's pretty logical for the most of the amount of time. There are certain areas where he gets upset if you go down. Sometimes likes to be a little emotional toward me, but we have a good relationship. I love you, Brian. He says, the back is better thing is played out, though, right, Zander? I think fans just want anybody but Jalen at quarterback. I don't believe anyone watches Tanner and thinks he's amazing. It might be some truth to that. I think, again, I brought it up earlier, Brian, this comment about, I think it's more that people look at the offense and they look at the skill set of the quarterback and they think, geez, if only we had, a progression reader or a guy who gets the ball out quick or a guy who, throws people open. That's not really Jalen's game. And Jalen has other areas where he's really good that Tanner wouldn't be good at. But I think I agree with you from that perspective. But I actually think Tanner McKee could be a good player. I do. I think he could be a good player. I mean, he's got the makings to be a good player. He's a tall-ass dude. He's a smart-ass motherfucker. He went to Stanford. I don't know if you guys know. Stanford is a hard place to be a student. And he's never been athletic. So my point in saying that is when you're athletic, Jalen's been able to run away from people his whole life, which is a good thing. But he never had a position where his only way to move the football was getting through his progressions. Tanner, that's the case. Like, if he doesn't throw the ball, he's done. He ain't running anywhere. If he doesn't get the ball out in 3 seconds, he's cooked. So he has a different, makeup as a player, a different skill set as a player. Special K says the Jalen comment keeps getting taken out of context. Which one, brother? I'll add the context. I think it's necessary. If you think there's lacking content, Special K, I always say I try and add all the context. I try and add all the context. Even the context I might not agree with. Like M. Reyes has a fair point in saying, well, Jalen Hurts has been the quarterback of the most successful, Eagles run in history. That's context in Jalen Hurts' favor. I'm not emotional. Oh, Waddington. Look, you're emotional that I called you emotional. We're emotional beings, most of us. Where's Kenny? Did he follow up, my boy Kenny? Did he give me the context that's missing? Wrong. Tanner gets the ball quick. I just said that, Daz. I guess you're not talking about me. Doesn't Jeffrey want a pocket pass? Well, I think the interesting part about that is, like, if you remember, let me follow up real quick. Kenny says, the question that came to him was about the run game and the ball being taken out of his hands, and he said he didn't care. Are you talking about the Jalen, it's going to look how Jalen wants to look comment, or are you talking about something else? All right, I'm a little lost in the weeds there. I don't know exactly what you mean. The comment about Lurie, doesn't Jeffrey want a pocket passer? I think the interesting part that most Jalenites will fail to realize, but if you remember, all right, and this is now this is verifiable here. This is not hearsay. This is not speculation. When they hired Nick Sirianni after Carson Wentz and the 2020 collapse, they hired him to fix Carson Wentz. They didn't hire him for Jalen Hurts. They wanted Carson Wentz to come back and be the quarterback again. Wentz was dejected. He felt embarrassed because of the benching, and he wanted out. He did not want to play for the Eagles. He made that very clear. And the organization, once they realized Wentz was not going to play for Nick Sirianni and the Eagles anymore, they traded him to the Colts. They got the conditional second, which became a first. Whatever. The rest is history. So they hired Nick not to make Jalen the starter and develop Jalen. They hired him for Carson Wentz, who has a very different skill set than Jalen Hurts. Then, after Jalen Hurts led the Eagles to the playoffs in 2021, started out 2-5, finished up 9-7 or 9-8, whatever it was, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Buccaneers, to the Tom Brady Buccaneers. After that season, they again tried to move on from the quarterback. They tried to bring in Deshaun Watson. They tried to bring in Russell Wilson, to the tune of they had multiple first-round picks on the table for both of those players. Remember what Broncos had to trade for Russell Wilson, and remember what the Browns had to trade for Deshaun Watson. The Eagles were very much so at the level there. They matched the Browns' compensation to trade. They didn't match the guaranteed. But Deshaun Watson was friends with Jalen Hurts, is friends with Jalen Hurts, did not want to take Jalen Hurts' job. He nixed it. Russell Wilson, for whatever reason, did not want to play in Philadelphia. He nixed it. So, like, my question there isn't to bash Jalen. My question there is, like, they never really wanted, like, I don't know if they ever really looked at Jalen and were like, let's build around him. 22 happened. He had an MVP campaign with Steichen, and obviously he got paid. He earned his contract. I think Jalen had a great year there. But, that to me brings up, like, an interesting part of, like, what did they want early, and do they still want that? Sometimes you can't change the stripes on a zebra. Don't blame me for that, by the way. Fucking blame the organization if you're a Jalenite and you want them to love Jalen Hurts. Don't blame me, bro. I don't make decisions. I just sit up here and talk about the shit. That's what they did. Like, I don't know if you can take from that they prefer a different style of quarterback. There's a lot of things you could take from that. Jalenites will interpret it as probably something that boosts up Jalen, and other people will interpret it as something that probably goes against Jalen. I just think it's context that should be added and evaluated when having the discussion. And this is also correct. Jeffrey Lurie is notorious and well known across the league as wanting and desiring a high octane passing offense. And a big part of that, by the way, is correct in that it is the easiest way to overcome the inevitable ebbs and flows of an NFL season and multiple seasons, right? Where you see it. Jalen Hurts has a style of play. And, like, here we are 1 year after the Super Bowl, and the offense sucks because the offensive line's taking a hit. The running back's not the same. It's like it's hard to maintain that style of play year after year, where you see fluctuations in other teams and other quarterbacks where, because they're a passer, they're going to overcome some of it. Now, they might not win it all. You see it. They have deficiencies too. It's not to say they don't have deficiencies too. Josh Allen doesn't win. Stafford doesn't win every year. You get it. There's other deficiencies. But the general thought process is it's better to be good it's easier to be good year in and year out with that style of offense as compared to having an offense that needs a great offensive line every year, a great running back every year, great receivers every year, great tight end every year. You get what I'm saying? It's harder to build a team that way. That's why you've heard John on Birds 365 many a time say, most teams don't want to play this way. I don't know. A lot of context to it all. It's an interesting conversation. I will say that I think this team is in an interesting spot. Of where are they? What do they want to be? Where do they see the biggest problems? Because me and Original Philly and 215 and Theodore and Underdog and Stephen Papara, Alfredo, we can all debate who we think the bigger problems are. We can. We're allowed to do that. We do that every day here. What really matters is, like, how they see it. How does Jeffrey Lurie see it? Jeffrey Lurie looks like a grouch, and whenever they show him in the press box, is he sitting there thinking, Kevin Patullo sucks? Is that what he's thinking? Is he sitting there thinking the high-flying passing offense would be better? Is he sitting there thinking Nick Sirianni doesn't know his ass from a hole in the wall? I don't know what he's thinking. I do think he likes Jalen Hurts. Certainly as a man and as a leader, and as a face of the franchise, which I understand. I mean, look, Jalen does everything right. He presents himself well. He answers questions well. I mean, he does all those things. He's objectively good. You can not like Jalen Hurts all you want. Objectively, he is a good face of an organization. All right? Objectively, he is a good face of an organization. A guy that puts the team first. He doesn't really throw anybody under the bus ever, in a press conference. Objectively, he is good at that. So I think the owner likes him, for that area. I don't know what he thinks of him on the football field in terms of not being a high-flying passer, but yeah, I think that's true. Well, he has a great temperament to be the Philly quarterback. Look how many ups and downs there are, man. Where it says, I smoke a joint for every 3 and out during games. I'm always baked as fuck. Theo, lay off the weed a little bit. Holy shit, dude. You're going to turn your brain to mush. Oh, that's funny. That's a lot of joints, man. That's a lot of joints. He's a monotone mope. Some people see it that way. I will say it's not my favorite thing when he sits on the sidelines, but that's his style. When it worked last year, everybody liked it. So that's where I try not to be too picky about that. It is what it is. When they were winning, nobody cared about him being on the sidelines. He's always been the same way on the sidelines. So if I smoked a bone every 3 and out, that's hilarious. We used to call them bones back in college, bro. Pass me the bone. Oh, my gosh. That's why they called me Z-Bone back in the day. I digress. Please, I don't want to put this on the air. All right? If I smoked a bone every 3 and out, I'd have to change my name to Cheech. You be Cheech, I'll be Chong, my brother. Holy crap, that's funny. That is cruddy. That is funny. Here's Alfredo. What up, Alfredo? Well, he wasn't on the sideline when he was cursing Patullo out in the Rams game. Hurts is tired of KP and his play calls. That's funny. Maybe he is. Brian says, that sideline shit does piss me off. Show some fucking emotion and get this team figured out. All we get is half-assed head shake from Hurts. Yeah, but Brian, don't you agree? He did the same shit when they were winning, and we didn't have a problem with it. Oh, Morty. Oh, my goodness. Morty says, is anyone else thinking about Jeff Kerr cruising Rising Sun Ave in his Honda Pilot? I'm convinced half our fan base isn't even in Philly anymore. For those who don't know, Rising Sun is an avenue in Philadelphia. Oh, my gosh. That was one of the funniest moments of Jeff Kerr's appearances ever. When I drive out of there in my big car, I think people think I'm a player. Jeff, what kind of car are you pushing? A Honda Pilot. Huh? That was funny. I don't want Jeff Kerr catching strays today. All right. No need to have Jeff Kerr catch some strays today. But that was fucking hilarious. That was literally hilarious. That was Dash, you missed it? Oh, he totally said that. It was so funny. He said, I think when I leave the NovaCare in my big car, fans think I'm a player. Oh, it was classic. Jeff Kerr, I love you, buddy, if you're listening. All right, don't get mad at me. I'd love to pull it up. Zander, how do you feel when you drive your Corvette down Kensington? Whenever I drive down to Philly, I got the tints on the windows and I got a gun on my hip. All right. That's what I got. Nobody fucking with me. Honda Pilots are great cars. They are. They're solid cars. I'm not a Honda guy, but they are. They say they're good cars. I about died last. Gary, me too, dude. Abe sent a video capture of it to the Discord channel. And he's like, look at Zander. I'm just looking off into space. You could tell I was about to crack up. It was a funny comment, though. All right. What gun do you carry? Glock 47. I want the 17X, though. Glock 47. Oh, no, is it a 48? It might be the 48. I can't even remember. Yeah, it's the 48. 48. My aunt loves her. My aunt loves her Honda Pilot. That's funny as shit. Here's Curtis. What's up, Curtis? Zay, it's funny how much credit coordinators get. Credit for dominating run games. Kellen in 24. Friday, the Bears manhandled our line, and people drooled over Ben Johnson. I know Ben is a good coach. Well, Curtis, I do think Ben had some good schematics there, brother. Oh, the 43X is too small, Ray. That thing doesn't fit it's too small, bro. I can't get a good grip on it. 19X is awesome. I've been wanting that for a while. One day, maybe I'll break out my safe and show you guys. I don't know. Will YouTube ban me if I show some guns on the air? Will they ban? They'll probably ban me. I'm not going to go down that road. There are a bunch of gun channels, but you heard about them. They gotten demonetized over time. You can carry in that. Yeah, you can carry here, man. Pennsylvania has good gun laws. New Jersey, on the other hand, is terrible gun laws. You want to have guns, don't go to Jersey. There are guns. Yeah, but they've all been demonetized, Philly. I read about it for a little bit. So I got a bunch, though. I got a good collection. I do. I got a good collection, man. I've been buying them since I lived in Houston. You know? So, yeah, I would. That's what I would have to do. I wouldn't do it on JAKIB. So, I won't do that. Show it on Discord. I'll send them in there on Discord. I got some nice ones, man. Oh, Berettas are nice. All right. I had a convo with Nolan Smith about why he chooses to live in PA. It's because of the gun laws. Yeah, Jersey is absolutely brutal, dude. Jersey's really bad. Like Jersey, it's like really freaking hard, dude. It's ridiculous, but whatever. It is what it is. Theodore, I'm not about to get into that. Theodore says, I'm more concerned about defense in the playoffs. Ours will be gassed and depleted. I agree. I mean, I think you're already seeing it in a way, Theodore, where, the defense is, I don't know, they're kind of I got the Walther PDP too, Bob. They're kind of trying to like hold it all together here. And I feel like the dam is breaking a little bit. I do. I feel like the dam is breaking a little bit. And I think it's trouble. I do. I think it's trouble. And the offense is eventually going to have to carry their weight a little bit more. I think everybody, even the Jalenites, would agree with that. Whether they blame Petulo or Jalen or whoever you want to blame, but I think the offense just has to be better, man. This is what AJ Brown's been talking about, the whole time. So. It is what it is. What's up, Bob? Zander, is it me or a JH career starting to mirror Russell Wilson's? That would not be a good road to be on. I don't know. I don't like to. I don't know, Bob. I understand why people go down this road. I'm not a huge fan of, comparing players. I'm really not. I've never been, because I think every player, every person, every, man has their own mental makeup and has their own, intricacies about them and their idiosyncrasies or whatever the hell you want to call it. So I can see where you're going with it. I'm not going to go down there, but I do see where you're going with it, Bob, if that answers your question. I do see where you're going. All right. So let me make sure I got all my supers. Here we go. Pumper, what up, Pump? The team doesn't like Hurts. It's a lot of fake love, to be honest, but this year they don't really give it, have to act it out. I want to say, I don't know. I can't speak on that. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know what the fuck the team thinks, but I do think it's weird. Like, does anybody have video? Did the team really not help Jalen up when that flag was called on the late hit? I mean, you guys saw it. Jalen Hurts was laying face down there. Like, you don't see Hurts get hit that much, bro. Like that. I mean, like, Hurts he's a strong, sturdy dude. He doesn't really take these hits where you're like, holy shit. That was one where it wasn't a huge hit he got, but he was face down. He was face down. Does anybody have video of that? Is that real? No one helped him up? Is there a video of that on social media? If there is a video of that on social media, please tag me in it. Just I didn't see it. I want to see if it's real. Intern says, how about a car? I got a car channel. It's a little bit on hold right now because I'm so busy with JAKIB, but I'm ramping that sucker up. I'm going to go off in March with that channel. I got a car channel. Go check it out, brother. ZK's Garage. Go check it out. I was getting some good traffic on there. I stopped. I'm kind of pissed at myself. I got to go make a video on it. I really do. But I'm just busy this time of year. Now we're in December. Not a great time to work on a Corvette or take out a Corvette. So, but yeah, check it out. Gun channel would be fun too, man. I got a flock of gun. My brother too. My brother was an Army guy. He's an Army National Guard for a while. He's a veteran now. We lived in Houston for a couple of years to Roll Philly Dogs' point. He lives in Texas. M. Reyes is in Texas. Down there, you walk into a gun store, it's like a party, man. Gary, let's do it, dude. You're going to be in Philly at all? Maybe in the offseason, Gary, if you come up to Philly, I think that'd be dope, dude. That would be dope because I don't have any outside footage of it, you know? Gary, that would be sick, dude. If we do that together, I would love to do that. I would love to do that. Feature some Eagles players in their wheels. That'd be cool, too. Post the link in the Discord for what? For the car channel? You guys don't remember? I think I guess we got a lot of new listeners in here. I'll post the link to it in the chat right now. ZK's Garage. I got 2.8K, 2.68K subs. There it is. But I see that. Should I hit up Jeff Curry? Yeah, hit up Jeff. Take some pilot content. I'll post that on ZK's Garage. That'd be funny. But all right, guys, love all you guys, man. Appreciate everybody for being here. Look, let's keep the good conversation going, man. I'm not in the business of shitting on people for having different beliefs. I don't care if you love Jalen Hurts. It doesn't bother me at all. You know, he's obviously done a lot for this football team, and I can understand it. But I also think that the offense sucks right now, and conversation needs to be had about it. And that's the point of having a talk show. You know, I got a talk show. We're going to talk about it all. So all points of view are welcome here. We do appreciate each and every one of you. Love all you guys. Hit the like button on your way out, and I'll see you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.